Hello, welcome to Tuesday night. I am your host for the evening, MC Toon, and tonight we have a discussion, a conversation, a chat, something like that, with Chris Curtis on the topic of flat Earth. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, thanks, man. Glad to be here.
If you don't know Chris, this is I think his fourth time he's been on here, but it's been a while. It's been over a year, I think. So
hmm
it's due. So welcome
Definitely.
back. I might have been out of town, but I'm not. So Chan's plans change.
Always for a reason
Or yes.
or no reason.
Well, yeah, we didn't want to go that long. So Dave Kircher comes out already saying, "Thank Titicaca, it's Tuesday." So Chris, I don't know. I'm in way too many Facebook groups, so I don't know what group it is that you're in. But Chris was talking in one of the groups, and then about flat Earth stuff, and then we were chatting, and he's like, "You should bring me on. We can talk about stuff." And you proposed last week. You said we should talk about refraction. I had to turn off
Definitely.
my air conditioner. So, um, yeah. So we're going to talk about refraction, but just to be clear, you think the Earth is a globe, right?
No, I don't. I honestly, I don't know what the shape of the Earth is, but I think there's a lot of evidence that it's not a globe.
All right. Do you think there's evidence for something else?
Absolutely. Well, yes, I do. And I think when you look at it the way that I'm looking at it, there's only one way to look at it. But on the flip side of that, do you think there's evidence for a globe? I absolutely think there's evidence for a globe, especially when you look at the sky and when you look at navigation and when you look at the great circle routes of airplanes and all of the things that we observe. They work on a globe, and any flat Earth model that is going to work is going to have to incorporate all those things pretty much the way that we understand them, except for Earth curvature.
Well, I mean, we'll set that aside because, of course, it's measured. But, um, I mean, flat earthers have had 2,500 years to incorporate these things, and these things have been they're progressively added on as more things as we do more things. Right? We didn't used to fly around 200 years ago, but somewhere around 100 years ago we started flying. So
So,
great circle navigation in an airplane became a thing, and yet there were flat earthers at the time when the Wright brothers were going, did not incorporate an answer for that navigation.
well, maybe they didn't think about it right. And you going back 2,500 years, if we look back 2,500 years, society was so segmented that, yeah, I mean, the Greek philosophers who supposedly the writings that we're reading today, those writings were passed down among a specific group of people. And there were people who propagated the theory that the earth might be a sphere. It wasn't really a popular theory that the earth was moving or in motion. It was more of a geocentric concept in the beginning. And,
There
you know,
there
I
were there were
realized there
Greeks.
were ancient, I
That,
understand,
yeah.
there were, I agree. I can't say that there weren't people who theorized, but you're looking at it as though like the entire world during the time of the Greeks believed that the earth was a sphere flying around the sun. And that belief didn't become a worldwide belief until about the 1700s. I mean, even the Chinese believed pretty much that the earth was flat up until we sent missionaries and told them that it was a sphere. So, I mean,
Now,
yeah, I mean, if you're
I
saying
don't
the
know
whole
much.
world,
I have to say I don't know a whole lot about Chinese history on the shape of the Earth, but I have to say I'd need a little more than that. So I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna not let you say that unchallenged. I'm saying I'd like to see more, more backing for Chinese
I
cosmology.
think I got it out of
Right.
Wikipedia.
Okay.
So
Uh,
somebody can look it up and verify it if they want.
that's fair. Okay. So I've got a couple things from the audience already. Uh, so we got Alter Ego says the last debate with Patrick Gunnels was gold. It was. And so let me, Chris, if you don't mind,
No, go
I
ahead.
got a bunch of feedback. I got positive and negative feedback on that. Some people thought I was too aggressive. Some people thought I was too interrupty. So I'll let you know some of that, was intentional. I came into that thinking about how I was going to approach it. So my approach to that wasn't an accident. And so some people thought I was too aggressive. I definitely came more like Professor Dave and Dearth into that. And that's how it played out. Then maybe some of my other things like, well, Patrick was so nice. He wasn't nice. He was exceedingly passive aggressive. He was dishonest from the beginning because the topic that he proposed and I accepted was, what's the evidence, the repeatable evidence for the globe? Of the two of us that were in that debate, that conversation, I'm the one that says the Earth is a globe. So I'm the only one that could be presenting anything on topic. He only wanted to stop me from presenting things. He specifically asked, he wanted measurements of 8 inches per mile squared. I was giving of measurements of 8 inches per mile squared, and he wanted to change the topic away from the measurements of 8 inches per mile squared. So all of those things lined up in the way they did. I don't control the flow of it. That's what happened, and it turned out the way it was. So my feedback, I got a lot of different answers, or different feedback from people. So you tell me this, people. Tell me in the comments below here on this video. Should I take a video of that and post it on my Conspiracy Tunes channel as Professor Dave did for when he debated with Dave Weiss? Should I cut it up into smaller segments that are more digestible, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, several of them? Or should I just say, that wasn't the example I want? And so that's my question to you. It was outside of my normal style. I'll say that. But I think it was, I think in many ways it was needed aggression to his passive aggressiveness and his dishonesty. So, all right. Somebody says, post it as a takedown of Oakley by proxy. Yes. Well, and I'll say this, anytime a flat earther brings up the claimed black swan, it is them getting caught red-handed lying. Because premise number one for them is to assert that there is no refraction. And clearly that's not the case in that photograph or that video. So, all right. There's the answer to that, alter ego. Thank you for your patience on that, Chris. Couple more though. Lento Manon says it's 3 a.m. at night here in Sweden, but it's worth it. Thank you. Stringer News 1 says, if motorboating on Titicaca, it must be Tuesday.
What? I don't get that. What is that in reference?
So Lake Titicaca is the funniest named lake in the world.
Oh, okay, yeah.
To a 13-year-old, right here, and it is the highest altitude lake to ever have a paddle boat. I know that. There used to be a paddle boat on there. We got Amadeus Arkham says, it's Axis. You're my champion, Mike. You have no idea. You're too kind, Axis, but thank you very much for that. I was chatting with him just recently, just today. He's like, are you doing a live stream? I am. And I might, if you guys are interested, we might do an invasion. I spelled it wrong again. You're interested after I'm done talking with Chris. So Chris asks Chris if you want to join the Temple of Tune so that Neil deGrasse Tyson can be your high priest.
No, not at all. Absolutely
No.
not.
Okay.
Never.
You don't want to join the Temple of Tune. Okay.
No.
PhD Tony says, I've warned you previously about impinging on the Krakatoni trademark. All rights reserved, intellectual property. I have deducted $10 from the super chat as a penalty. Well, thank you, PhD Tony, for the $20 super chat that was deducted to 10. Okay. So Chris Curtis, it's a no to joining the Temple of Tune. All right. Where were we?
Talking about refraction.
All right.
And I'll just let you go ahead and open it up. I didn't do really any preparation. I meant to, but I
Okay.
kind of got sidetracked.
So the so you take issue with the measurements of curvature. Um and that goes right into refraction, because typically flat earthers, when they do attempt to test, they'd say they're testing the globe, they set up a false dichotomy. They're like, if this test fails, then the conclusion must be the other way. But no, if that's not the case. The false dichotomy is that, right? If the test fails, then the hypothesis is falsified. That's all you can say for it. You can't say that some other case has been established. Right? For that, you need the positive test for that, the actual measurements of that. So if it were to happen, that you set up a hypothesis for the globe and then you test it, and if it was all done right, which I've never seen, but if it was all done right, then it did not support the hypothesis, the conclusion is only it doesn't support the hypothesis. You still need to go construct a test for flat Earth, a measurement, to test a hypothesis for it, run that test and get a positive answer, confirming it so that it supports the hypothesis of the Earth being flat. But that's never happened. Flat Earthers never, to my knowledge, have done that, right? Jaron tried, as an example of somebody that tried. A few have tried, I'll say that. But generally, they're trying to falsify the globe, and it's always a misunderstanding of it. But Jaron did try to do the actual confirming positive evidence for flat Earth, and it didn't work, right? And he said there's stuff in the way. Okay, go repeat it. Go try it again. He didn't. But that was, I think, an okay. There's other ways, maybe better to do it, but it was an okay test to test of flat Earth.
Well, I mean, you've got so many factors to consider in that test. I mean, you've got the temperature layer of the water, you've got the temperature of the air, you've got the barometric pressure that night. What was, how much dust is in the air? I mean, there's so many things, especially when you're firing a laser at an angle.
Dust.
It's absolutely, there's particles throughout the atmosphere.
But dust.
And well, yeah, I mean,
so let me review, just so you know, Chris.
Okay.
They had Jaron on one side, and they had
I saw it.
Right, Jaron on one side and the light on the other, and then a panel in the middle. And Enrique with the light would move to the side of the panel, and then Jaron and everybody at the other end could see the light. And then he'd go, there was no panel by Enrique. He'd move back towards the middle so that the panel in the middle would be blocking. And it was a 17-foot high above the water, right? They were over a road, not water, actually. They used the canal next to the road as their reference. And so he'd move so that it would obstruct it. So the dust was not obstructing the light. So we know the dust wasn't a factor. So he'd move back, he'd move over. He just kept moving back and forth. And then when he finds put it up over your head, he put it up over his head. Let me get on screen here. And that's when they saw it. There's apparently only one time it was seen, so it wasn't, super strong, but they did falsify the claim, or the hypothesis of flat, right? Because Jaron was correct, at least on that. If Jaron was at 17, if the hole was at 17, if the light Enrique was holding was at 17, then the flat Earth hypothesis says that you should see it. Of course, Jaron, like you said, you need to factor in refraction, right? Barometric pressure, temperature, those are the things. Jaron didn't do that. He assumed zero refraction. Right? Now, this was was it 2017?
This was a while
that he
back.
Filmed it. I think it was filmed in 2017. And the movie came out in 2018. I think, or it could be shifted 1 year. But Jaron started early 2015 in Flat Earth. Right? Dubé was November of 2014. February of 2015 was Sargent and Jaron. So this was about 2 years in. It's been another 5 years, 6 years. And he hasn't repeated it. And I've talked to him like, Jaron, you should repeat it. He doesn't, but all right. So what needs to be factored in then, and how would you factor that in?
Well, it depends on what kind of experiment you're talking about, what the
Gerunds.
indice
Do gerunds.
is. Well, I mean, for one, is the air temperature colder than the ground temperature? That would cause more of an upward refraction effect. Then you would have to ask the question whether the pressure, as far as barometric pressure, would overweigh the effect that you're going to get from the temperature inversion of the cold air being above the surface that's warmer. You would have to, dust, I agree, over that distance probably wouldn't be a factor. Over longer distances, I believe it is. I believe that should be included in the refractive index. Another thing is, refraction, if you're thinking about it over distance, depending on what terrain you're going over, it's going to change as you go over that terrain. Over long distance, there's so many variables when thinking about refraction, thinking about what we should see and what we shouldn't see. It's almost impossible unless you can do it over a short enough distance, or unless you can go out there and take really valid measurements over the entire trek of the light.
So here I have a thermometer, and you're right, it's rarely done. I've only seen two flat Earth experiments where they measured the vertical temperature lapse rate, it's called. And both of them were involving not a doctor, John D. And people think that it's John Doe, right? He's just using a replacement name. He claims to have a degree in optics of some sort, but he doesn't actually apply refraction correctly. So I'm calling BS on his degree. But they measured the vertical temperature gradient in the Lake Balaton experiment, whatever. And then on the peer-to-peer, which is on John D's channel, both of them measured the vertical temperature gradient. And here's the actual, like, the key part of the vertical temperature gradient. The pressure varies only slightly vertically. It does, but it doesn't vary much. And so when you actually run how much pressure affects it, it's not much in 10 meters, right? Generally, none of these are over 10 meters high, but the temperature varies a good amount, and that can really have a big impact. So a 1 degree Celsius change in temperature over 10 meters, so that's 30 feet, okay, will cause the ray of light to bend at about 6,300 kilometers radius, right? The radius of the Earth, as measured, the radius of the globe is about 6,371 meters. So you need 1 degree Celsius over 10 meters in order to cause, and of course, if it's totally uniform, which it never is, but that will cause light to bend at the same rate as the measured radius of the globe. That's not a lot. That's not a hard thing to do. I used this on a lake in March, and I had 1 degree in 1 meter. So it's way more aggressively refracting than is necessary.
So the question I have for you is, if this is your angle on a globe, okay, what happens to the angle of refraction over a flat Earth where you have even more atmosphere? You have even more density at the surface. So if I look at a building across a body of water, and I did the calculations earlier, I use GPT-4 now for calculations. I don't even use a calculator because it's very accurate. It tells you exactly what you need to do, exactly how to do it. But we figured out that the angular size of a 1,000-foot skyscraper from 50 miles away would be about 0.214 degrees above the horizon, right? So if we consider the angular size of that skyscraper, and then I consider my size of being 6 foot tall, looking over a body of water that's 50 miles wide, looking at this small building, you have to zoom in on it to even see these buildings. They're so far away. A lot of people don't realize that, but so let's take that same concept of that temperature differential bending that ray of light enough to where it exactly matches the radius of Earth at every latitude, and the light coming away parallel from the surface of that building, parallel to the ground, It's hitting my eyes in a straight line, or otherwise I would see the building from a higher angle. So you can't argue that photons are coming up like this and then coming down, because I would see the building as though I was looking at it from up here. I would be standing on the shore, and because I'm 0.6, so my angle to the horizon was 0.61 degrees above the horizon. The sun is 0.5 degrees. Okay, so as a 6 foot tall person, my angle to the horizon is 0.6 degrees higher than the sun. My angle to the building is 0.6 degrees higher than the building, meaning that anything coming in a straight line to that building is going to hit the ground over distance, and it's going to hit the ground from the bottom of the object first, causing the bottom of the object to disappear and causing us to think there's a radius when there's not.
Well, I see where you're going there, and a couple people have said you cannot trust ChatGPT for math. You have to verify.
It's pretty good. You do have to verify.
Have
I
to
agree,
verify.
but
So
that's pretty simple math.
Disclaimer:
when you're talking about angular size.
Austin Whitsitt did not check. He copy pasted, claiming it proved something, and it was ridiculously wrong. He got completely, and he claimed
was he using GPT-4 or was he using ChatGPT?
He used ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's not the same thing.
It was several months ago. But to be clear, he did it. He claimed that he did it, which is
right. Well,
don't plagiarize.
It's really good as a teacher. It really is. I mean, if you don't know how to do something on a scientific calculator, it will take you step by step through the process of how to calculate the angles, how to invert them, how to do all the things that you need to do to be able to do the math that Michael and people like yourself do. And math is fun. When you start really delving into math and you start looking at, why these things are calculated the way that they're calculated, it becomes really a fun process to think about. But yeah, it's in the future, it's going to be a game changer.
It's not random. It's not.
No.
It's not.
No.
I'm just trying to show something. So, all right, let me show you. I'm going to share this to you, and I'll send it out to the crowd here. So, this is my page on downward refraction. So, all right, I know he's off the screen. I gotta fix this. Right here. All right, there you go. So here's my page on downward refraction on mc2.net. So I just have some diagrams here, which is really all that we need. So here is the non-refraction version of it, right? If there's no refraction. All right, hold on. Let's see. There you go. I'm trying to get it so people can see it. Okay, so there. Chris, you're off the screen. Hold on, I gotta fix you.
I'm good, man.
No. People are only seeing your chest. Like,
oh, okay, my bad.
You don't. No, it's not your bad. It's mine. It's the producer, and I'm the producer, so that's why it stinks. There we go. Okay, so here it is. We got Batman there. We got the hotel. So the light from the top of the building goes non-refracted down to Batman. It's a straight line, not a problem. But then we add refraction. This is downward refraction. And I think you have at least a decent understanding of downward refraction. So some flat earthers think that downward refraction causes things to look lower. That's wrong. If they look higher. So this is how we show that. So here that same ray of light that would normally get to Batman's eyes is bent down and it hits the ground in front of him. That's what you mentioned, right? So here is then a second ray of light coming off the corner of the building, you see, and it would have otherwise gone over Batman's head, but because of refraction, it gets bent down and Batman actually sees it. And then here's the final thing that you had mentioned, that ray of light comes in at a slightly different angle. And since it comes in at a slightly different angle, it appears higher than it is if there was no refraction. So that's how things, for example, could be behind something, right? That
absolutely.
If you see that curving light there, if something was in the way that would have blocked the non-curving light, well, it gets around the curving light and it appears higher. So, for example, the horizon, right? The curve of the water as you're looking at it, the thing behind the curve, if there was no refraction, can now be seen because of that refraction.
Right.
Okay, so to go back, we've got this one here where the light hits the ground, as you said, right? And then this is where it looks higher, as you said. Now, how much higher is the question? If it's still,
Well, I
if it's
believe
significantly below you because of the curve of the Earth, then it won't appear above you. It'll appear less significantly below you,
right.
right?
Well, it always, I mean, a lot of times it'll appear level to the horizon. You'll see the whole building. Sometimes you'll only see half of the building. You have super refraction. You have all of these terms that are associated with the globe model. And when I'm looking at it from a flat Earth perspective, so anything that is at or below my line of sight. So if I'm looking at a building that's on the horizon and I'm looking down at that building, or if I'm looking at the power lines across Lake Pontchartrain, when they meet my line of sight, that is where I'm going to see refraction cause those objects to bend down and into the water. But if we look at the tower at the other end, that's at a higher angle, where I'm having to look up at it, that tower is being stretched out. If you look at the top of that tower, it's being stretched out and up, and it's the same downward refraction that's happening, but one set of photons is hitting the ground before it hits my eye, and the other set of photons is hitting my eye from this angle, making that end object actually appear higher because it is at a higher angle.
But now this won't cause things to be stretched. This will actually cause things to be compressed because you're actually seeing more things in the same vertical space than you would if there was no refraction. So the building that would normally be non-refracted, blocked by the horizon, if now you see more of it or all of it, well, you don't have any extra vertical space to stick it into, so it all has to get squished, so everything gets compressed together.
Well, I think it looks like it's being stretched out, and I agree with you on that. But when you're thinking about refraction, you also have like inferior mirages, and you have things that happen in the upper when you're looking up at an angle, or when you're looking above the horizon.
Those are complications that really mess up observations, and so like sometimes it's caused by reflection, sometimes it's caused by ducting, sometimes it's caused by different layers that are different temperatures, and it's doing weird things in between there. So if there's ever those types of conditions, that's the kind of things where the conditions where you should not be drawing conclusions. You should say, all right, well, we're seeing refraction, right. We're seeing mirages.
Can I say something real quick about along those same lines?
Finish my sentence, then you say, all right, let's go somewhere else, come back, different day, do something. We cannot draw a conclusion from this because it's such a mess. All right, go ahead.
So how can we draw conclusions with what we're told about what we're seeing with the assumption of the Earth being a globe? Because when we make the observation, it's not like we can make the observation like with Lake Pontchartrain. What makes it unique is you can see the lines that are connected together, and exactly when that effect is taking place, you can see your line of sight, you can see those towers bending down into the water, and you can look at it through every step of the journey and see it. But when you're told something like, for example, well, refraction can't stretch objects, what basis do you have to believe something like that? Is it something you read? What basis does that article have to say something like that? And a lot of times in the scientific establishment, what I find is you have an explanation, but you don't really have the mathematics to back it up. And people say, well, the math is so complicated, or like the curvature, like the refraction at every altitude, even with the sun 93 million miles away in the heliocentric model, perfectly matching the curvature of the Earth. I mean, that's kind of magic.
Why? Hold on. The distance of the sun doesn't perfectly match the curvature of the Earth.
That's the altitude. Yeah, because it's 0.87 degrees below the horizon at sunset and sunrise, or otherwise it doesn't work. It's got to be below the horizon, or the math for what we're seeing in the sky go across doesn't work. So we assume.
Oh, so you're saying that the distance of the sun matches the globe model.
It could. In my model, it could, because it's under us, right? The cosmos. If you imagine in my model.
Right, hold on. I don't want to hear that yet. All right, just a second. You made a few claims. I want to address them if that's okay. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
The math, and so there's two parts to generally two kind of parts to science. There's computing the consequences of a hypothesis, right? And
Mhm.
there's comparing it to reality or comparing it to observations or experiment, right? Those are the two parts. And when you get into high end physics and stuff, these two camps of people don't even sometimes overlap. There's people that just do the computing, and there's some people that just do the testing. They specialize. Anyway, here is, so we say you don't, where's the math and where's the empirical for refraction? Well, I've got those, right? mz2.net/refraction. So this is mostly about the observations, the actual measurements of real effects of refraction. There's some math in here, of course. You can see a formula there, doing some things. But these are this particular one, monitoring the refraction coefficient in the lower atmosphere using a controlled setup of simultaneous reciprocal vertical angle measurements. So what they do there, simultaneous, they take two theodolites, and they're robotic theodolites, and they're pointing at each other. They're on opposite sides of a field or whatever they're measuring. They're pointing at each other and measuring throughout the day on different conditions how high they appear to each other. And so they're constantly measuring different effects or different elevations. At the same time, they are measuring the atmospheric and the air temperatures and different things and whatever. There's a bunch of different things in this particular paper that they're doing. So it's a very good one because it's doing these simultaneous things, and it's actually measuring the coefficient of refraction, which is usually lowercase k.
0.003, I
Well,
think,
that's pretty
in the
small.
globe.
That's pretty small.
Yeah.
And when you hear the words standard refraction, that's usually 0.167. K equals 0.167. But standard is only when you don't know, you didn't actually do any measurements of the temperature, but it was in standard conditions like overcast, not over water, at a decent elevation, so you weren't skimming across land, right? If you're outside of those things, then your measurement quality starts to go down, and the standard refraction is only going to help you a little, and your margin bars are going to your error bars are going to get bigger. So anyway, so this is important. It shows a range of k, that's the coefficient of refraction, between -4 and +16 for sunny summer days. Now, this particular, they're using a different coefficient of refraction, k. It's a little confusing here than the one that is most often used, I think. So this isn't, so a coefficient, just for reference, a coefficient of refraction of k normally, not for this paper, of 1 is when the radius of the arc of the light is the same as the radius of the Earth. This paper uses a different one, a different formula for k. And then, anyway, but what this is saying is it varies dramatically for summer days. And -4 is a negative coefficient of refraction. It will actually cause things to appear lower instead of higher. And so that's where we're seeing sunny summer days. It makes it really wildly varying. And then here's a different one, +12 to +16, a smaller range, nothing going negative, over grassland at 1.8 meters. So not far above the grass, right? Less than 6 feet
Right.
above the grass. And it's a decent, now again, don't take this to be 1 equals the radius of the Earth. This is not. This is
But
different
if
value.
we're assuming a radius, then we're assuming that refraction is going to be bending down over the curvature of Earth. Whereas if we assume the Earth is flat, it's going to hit the ground.
You could take
over distance.
Yeah, but again, all the light splays out in and when it reflects off something.
It does. So can I
right,
take that point, because I kind of covered it. So if we imagine photons coming off of the building at this angle, and or at this angle and bending down and hitting our eyes, all of the photons would be coming from this angle, and I would see the building from a higher angle. That's not what we see. I mean, if the angular size of the building decreases across a large body of water, and I zoom in on that, I'm not going to see the building from the roof perspective. Like if it has a flat roof and it's taller than I am, I'm never going to see the roof across the body of water, even though the angular size is very, very small.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that. That would have to be a pretty dramatic thing, because to see the roof of a building, you'd have to be higher than the building. Right? So if you're let's say you're 10 meters above the ground and it's a 30-meter building. Well, it's 20 meters taller than you are. So you're not going to expect to see the building. But if the building is 30 meters and you are at 30 meters, then maybe you could see a little bit of it.
But right? It would look like I was viewing it at a higher angle.
But you need to have an observation for that. But,
well, that's the thing, is how are you... That's the thing. How do you quantify these things without faith, Michael? Like, how do you quantify what the light is going to do over a surface of 3 miles
right here
without believing that it's doing what it's doing?
This paper, this isn't faith. This is actual empirical measurements.
A globe. It's assuming a globe.
It's quantifying the amount of bending in the radius, so that the radius of the arc of curve is related to the radius of the globe, but you could just say, forget that. It's just related to this number.
What is the refractive index of air?
It's 1.0001.
It's 0.004 something like that.
Yeah, it varies though. It varies a lot.
But so we're talking about that variance, right? But when we're talking about the refractive index of air, you have to be able to explain that variance. And you're doing so with the assumption that the ground is curved in front of you in all directions.
But you are free to rerun the math without that. Like I said,
well, I have.
So what this is doing here, when it says -4 to +16, all this is reporting is the radius of the arc of light. Now they have related it, because surveying does this. They have related it to the radius of the Earth, because surveyors are the ones that output the radius of the Earth long before any, the
but
more
how
precise
long are they
versions.
looking?
What's that?
When they're using their theodolites, and when they're using their tools to measure the radius, if you're doing the big geodesic surveys, you're looking 20 or 30 miles in some cases.
Sure.
And you're looking at that drop that's in front of you. So you go up on a high point, you're looking at the drop that's in front of you, 30 miles in some cases. And again, if the Earth is flat, that ground is going to appear lower because of what refraction is going to cause it to do.
But Chris,
especially if I'm looking down.
When they're doing the geodetic surveys to measure the radius of the Earth, they're primarily measuring the length, not the vertical. They're measuring the distance. So the transcontinental triangulation American arc of the parallel measured the distance across the United States around the 39th parallel. The vertical measurements that they did were not the primary output of that. So that gives us the radius of the Earth. So,
but if you're seeing a drop, that changes the distance. It spreads it out. Yes.
They're measuring horizontal angles. The primary thing that they're doing is measuring horizontal angles. They do get elevations to improve the precision, but even without that, they're primarily using the triangles that they're getting to measure the length across the 39th parallel. So they know the longitude at both ends, and they say, well, we went X percentage or X degrees across of the 360 at the 39th parallel. Do the math. Boom, boom. We now don't know the radius of the 39th parallel. Sine cosine gives us the radius of the equator.
But do you agree that if you get a drop, so if I get a drop because of refraction looking from here to there, hold on, because it's a measurable, the horizon is measurably lower. And so if I'm measuring that, I'm going to get spherical excess. I'm going to get spherical excess on these triangles when it doesn't exist.
No. So spherical excess
How do you get excess without drop?
So when they're measuring, when they did this survey, they did at each station, they did both vertical and horizontal measurements, and most of the time it was, and maybe all the time, it was two different instruments. In fact, they had a theodolite that measured azimuth angles, horizontal angles, and they had a different theodolite that's measuring vertical angles. So the spherical excess comes from measuring horizontal angles. So there's no looking at the horizon in spherical excess. That's not a part of the process. So when they're measuring a triangle and it gets more than 180 degrees, they say, well, there's a point over there, and there's a point over there. All right, what's the angle between them? Okay, and then over at this point, they do the same thing. What's the angle between? And over here, they do the same. What's the angle between them? Horizontal angles.
But if the horizon isn't right vertically,
there's no horizon in this measurement, though, Chris. They're measuring to the point.
You have to be measuring a point.
Yes. So they have a tower or a mountaintop, and at that tower,
30 miles away.
And at that tower or mountaintop, they have a signal light of some sort. On the mountaintops, it's called a heliotrope. So it's actually got a mirror. They aim the mirror down the tube from the sun. So you get the sun, and they're actually angling the sunlight to the other person. And so then the person with the theodolite at the other mountaintop is measuring the angle to that light that the heliotrope is shining at them. So there's no horizon measurement. There's no horizon measurement.
Okay, even a point in the middle, even something before the actual horizon on a flat Earth, the horizon is thousands of miles away from me in every direction. I mean, there is no horizon. The atmosphere causes the horizon. And we can see that, on foggy days, your horizon, wherever it is, will change significantly. If it's high humidity, your horizon is going to be a lot different. I live here in Oklahoma City, or outside of Oklahoma City, and I can see the Devon Tower from where I live. On some days, I can't see the Devon Tower at all. On other days, the Devon Tower looks like it shrunk. And on other days, you can see the entire Devon Tower. It sits behind a hill, but you can tell by how far it's sticking above the horizon and the structure of the building that's behind the hill that you can't see, and no, the hill's not curvature, but it's variable, and it varies. So my argument is that on a standard day, if we're looking on a flat surface, there's always going to be apparent curvature in the distance because of refraction, because the Earth is flat. Right, the light, no matter what you're looking at, over distance, the taller it is, the longer it's going to take to hit the ground. But over distance on a flat surface, all of that light is going to hit the ground. It could even be, if you're looking at this refraction right here,
wait, Chris, difference. Not all of it, because the light goes out, it splays out in all directions. So only some of it.
Right, the light going up, right.
The stuff that started at the correct angle to be refracted into your eye won't.
Right. Parallel or like this. So if you imagine rays going out, it would be the rays that are at or below. So parallel or below that, those rays are going to hit the ground over distance. So if you're looking at a building, the rays are coming parallel to your eyes. If you're looking at the sun and you look at the shadow of the shadow of the sun falls in one direction, the rays are parallel to the ground to your eyes from the sun that is lower than in most cases, unless you're 3 foot tall. But yeah, I mean, it's the reverse way to look at it, right? It's taking the globe and it's flipping it on its head and saying, well, what would it be if the Earth was flat? And it would work completely differently, but we would get the same results.
It would work completely differently, but you'd get the same results. That doesn't make sense, Chris.
Well, yeah, in one case, the Earth is flat, so the light is hitting the ground. In the other case, the Earth is a sphere, so the light is bending down over the surface. But it's going to work differently over a flat Earth, obviously. The light's going to do the same thing, but it's traveling over a flat surface instead of over a sphere. And you'll get the same result either way. So it's a conundrum.
I don't think that you're going to get the same result either way.
Why?
Well, you didn't present the math. I mean, I got the math here for.
Yeah, the math is refraction. That's without the radius.
No,
so if you take the angle of incidence.
Right.
So without the radius, here, I'll work it out for you. Give me an angle of incidence for light. Now I'll tell you what the refractive, and you've got to consider the refractive index also, Michael. This is what a lot of people don't think about. The refractive index is completely changed by all sorts of matter that might be in the atmosphere, or especially when you're looking at long distances like silica. Think about the silica that exists in the atmosphere looking over a stretch of 10 or 15
All right,
miles.
I'm going to need a
across the flat
citation
Earth.
on the magnitude of
Look
the
it up.
change of index of
Google it up.
refraction. No,
Well, silica
that's your
itself. We're
claim, not
talking
mine.
about silica itself,
So the
right?
magnitude of the index of refraction
Where's
of
your
air because
Where
of
are you
refraction.
getting all this? Like this is based on observations
it's on
of
screen.
what they're assuming
Mine
to be
is-
a sphere.
Mine is on screen. Right
So
here.
if this is happening, if it's varying
Here's
by
mine is
that
on
much
screen.
over a flat Earth, then you're going to get objects hitting the ground over a very short distance. In some cases, things are going to go behind the curvature very quickly, like in 5 to 6 miles.
No, because the light doesn't only go at you like a laser. It goes from all directions. It splays in all.
Let's
So
use the sun.
this ray that would get to you but hits the ground doesn't get you. But this ray is pointing up, so it curves down and it gets to you. So not all of it gets blocked. It would actually appear higher. You'd see more if the Earth were flat. You'd see more, but we don't. Nothing would be obstructed bottom up,
and all
but
the photons that are hitting me are coming off this way. It would be as though I was looking at the building from here. That is not what's happening. The photon, look at the shadow from a sun. I mean, does the sun cast shadows in multiple directions, or is the light coming from one direction? Do we have 10 different shadows when the sun is on the horizon?
One shadow, and
because the light is coming,
and the shadows are very nearly parallel.
Yes. Yeah. And the reason why is because the light is parallel to the ground. We're not seeing the sun rays move in all directions and create shadows. For one,
because we're not close enough to it.
It's 865,000 miles in diameter, right? It's like a big wall of light that is just shining. That's why equinox, if you look at the graphics for equinox, they show these parallel rays coming from an 860,000 mile diameter sun. When you look at the diagrams for the eclipse, it shows the sun putting these rays into the moon and creating an umbra and a preumbra and explaining it in a completely different way. And there's got to be congruency. It's got to be one way or the other. It can't work both ways.
No, it totally works both ways. All of the people that really studied this and understand the math and spent years and years and years on this, you're not the one that came up with the hole that they all missed.
No.
Okay.
But I am the one who comes up with the graph, or not the one. I mean, these are shared among all of us. I mean, we know the graphics. We've seen the memes, dude. I mean, this is nothing new to you. And it's nothing new to me either. And I don't even think that I am the one who thought about that. I think it was pointed out to me by someone else about the difference between the graphic for equinox and the graphic for the moon. But you can test this hypothesis with a flashlight. If you get a bigger flashlight than your object, so light's coming from all directions, you're not going to get the umbra and the preumbra the way you do if you have a narrow flashlight behind a little bitty ball. Then you get that circular shadow with the shadow in the middle, because the light has to go like this. You have to have the light connecting at a point like this in order to get that shadow, and that's why the graphics show that. But if the light is coming from an 850,000 mile diameter sun, you would have a wall of light. You would have perpetual sunset. And you don't.
Wait, we'd have what?
Perpetual sunset because of the atmosphere. Remember, so the explanation for a lunar eclipse.
Hold on. I need before you get. But that's why we have a nautical twilight, an astronomical twilight. They have these classifications, but the sun goes down and you still see the light, and over time it gets darker, darker, darker. Right? It's not an instant darkness.
Where do you see that on any picture of the globe that shows the Terminator? Where is that gradual change with that red glow on these globe pictures you guys like to say are real?
It's a simplified model, right?
Okay,
and the width of the Terminator line on the globe, when you see just the one screen that has the globe on it, the thickness of a black line that you could draw on that is probably thicker than the actual fuzzy Terminator line that you would see. I don't know.
Well, if it's an hour and a half after sunset and I can see the sun, that's 22.5 degrees.
No, you're true. That's true.
I mean, that's pretty significant.
You don't see the sun.
It's a pretty big band.
You see the light coming through the air. Right.
Yeah, but you don't. And this is what I'm saying. If you take a flashlight and you shine it on a ball, you're always going to get that perfect shadow around the edge of that terminator. There's no way to get that light to wrap around the edge of that ball.
Because
It
that
doesn't
ball
matter how
doesn't
big
have
your flashlight
because that
is,
ball doesn't have an atmosphere, Chris.
an atmosphere. Right. Okay, so this is where I was going with the perpetual sunset. So our observation of a lunar eclipse is explaining a lunar eclipse as Rayleigh scattering, or the light coming around the edge of Earth and illuminating the moon with this red light.
Okay,
But
yeah.
let's think about it logically. So the Earth in the sky of the moon is 4 times bigger than the sun, right? During a lunar eclipse, the sun
hold
perfectly
on.
matches
The Earth is
the
4
moon.
times. Wait, what's 4
In
times
the
larger?
sky of the moon, the Earth is 4 times larger than the sun. It's 2 degrees. The sun is still relatively 0.5 degrees.
Okay.
Right. So it's 4 times larger. You can fit 9 moons inside of that diameter of Earth. And you're telling me that when Earth blocks it, you're getting all of this sunlight coming around the edge, making this red circle that's shining on the moon. It's illogical and it's stupid. For one,
Chris,
we have a black shadow on Earth with an eclipse from the moon.
Chris, just for reference, like I said, all of the people that have been studying this, you didn't just find something they missed. I want you to really ponder that for a second,
Michael, because it's got to match the model. So
it
show
does.
me a picture of Rayleigh
it does.
around
Stop.
the edge of Earth.
It does, and showing you a picture.
Evidence?
Stop. Hold on. Showing you a picture is the simplified version. Do the actual algebra and trigonometry for it. Then
you can do algebra and trigonometry. I sent you the map for the 5th dimension with 10 rotational axes, right? Not the math, but the framework for the math. Now, what you're saying is this math, you're accepting it with faith and saying, based on math, I should see the light of the sun around the edges of Earth when the Earth is 4 times bigger than the sun in the sky of the moon. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Okay. So Chris, I want to remind you, you're like, show me a picture. A picture is a simplified thing, right? And typically a picture is something that you put, the reason why somebody would make a picture, a not to scale picture of how the sun casts a smaller shadow on the Earth. It's not to scale, of course. And the reason why you would do that is to simplify it for somebody that doesn't grasp the concept yet. But if you're like, I need to see the actual, like, 2-scale picture. We can't show a 2-scale picture because if the sun on a piece of paper is anything more than just a dot, right? The Earth is still just a dot. The moon is just a dot. They're so small compared to the sun, so you can't draw these things to scale. NASA has
pictures of this. They have pictures of it from the 60s, and it's really blurry, but it shows the little bitty Earth and blocking the sun, but it shows the corona of the sun around the Earth. And it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen when you lay out the basic math. And back in the day, they didn't think about the math as much as they probably should have, because there are a lot of questions that we can ask.
It was this, first of all, NASA does put things out that are illustrations. So was this an illustration? And they note the things that are illustrations.
Yeah,
right.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.
JM Truth is famous for looking at an illustration that NASA produced and doing an analysis on it and identifying that it's an illustration. Whoop-de-doo, right on the bottom of the screen while he's doing this analysis, it says illustration.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not claimed to be real. So I don't know. I don't know the picture you're talking about. Is it labeled?
No, it's an old picture. So it's not CGI. It was a picture that was allegedly taken, but it shows the Earth in the middle of the sun, and it shows the light of the sun shining around the edge of Earth.
And where
really brightly.
Where was this picture? Where would this picture
Somebody
have been taken?
It with you. Somebody Google it, because I know that people I've argued with in our group know exactly what I'm talking about.
Answer this question. You can figure this out.
Okay.
Where must that picture be taken?
Well, if it's a real picture, it would have been taken from space looking at the Earth, and the moon would be in the back, or the sun would be in the background.
Yeah. So not the moon, right? So it would need to be that
you're looking towards the sun.
Yeah. Somewhere near
Lagrange. On the other side of Earth.
Yep. Somewhere near Lagrange point 2.
Right.
So you're
in the heliocentric model.
You know,
in the heliocentric
yeah,
model.
you do know what the Lagrange points are at least.
Yeah,
right?
there are five of them, I think, and
Yes.
I think that one on each side at 1,000,000 miles, and then
one closer to the sun and one closer to the sun, one farther than the sun.
I don't remember, but yeah, I'm familiar.
And then there's four, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 and 4 are in front of our orbit and behind our orbit, and there's like rocks that got collected there, and then the fifth is opposite our orbit at the same distance away from the sun. So
right. So here's an interesting question. This is an observation that I did make the other day, the Perseid meteor shower. So I was interested to see when the earliest observation of the Perseid meteor shower was. And according to the internet and GPT again, the earliest observation was 36 AD in China. So I did the math on that, just thinking about it as far as the precession of equinoxes, you know, how the cosmos or the constellations kind of turn. This is why Polaris moves in the heliocentric model isn't always the North Star. But when you calculate this precession of equinoxes, it should have moved by more than 28 degrees, which is almost a full month. So in 36 AD, they were seeing the Perseid meteor showers on August 10th. And this year, it peaked on August 13th. So the peak after 2,000 years. And if you think about a comet like Tempel-Tuttle, it's not coming in on the ecliptic parallel to the ecliptic in line with the orbital plane of Earth, right? In the heliocentric model, Tempel-Tuttle is doing this. This is the ecliptic. Tempel-Tuttle is coming into the ecliptic and out of the ecliptic from above. So you would have to have an immensely wide comet tail that with a comet like that, and for it to be on the same day, that's an impossibility. The peak would not be on the same day after the rotation because it's been 2,000 years. And the cosmos should have rotated unless it's not moving like they say it's moving. And you really can't measure it unless you have faith in the NASA models and other space agencies. And yeah, they all work together. Absolutely.
All right. I want to remind you again, we've got Eric Burns is in the chat, and his mind is exploding because he is an astronomer.
Good. Let's hear his explanation.
So, I want to stress this again, Chris. Astronomers didn't invent this to fool people because the other astronomers that would come into it would be like, what the crap? That doesn't make sense. Because this is the thing they do. So you aren't the one that figured out the whole. They didn't
invent the Perseid meteor shower. God did. God figured it out, and nobody is pointing this out. So I would love the explanation from the astronomer for why I'm seeing the Perseids on the exact same days 2,000 years later. Okay. And they vary. Sometimes the peak's on the 8th, sometimes it's on the 10th, sometimes it's on the 14th, but it's always in this section of August, and we should have moved by now.
Why would she? Why? What do you mean we should have moved?
Because of the precession of equinoxes over a 26,000 year period. The constellations do a complete circle.
Okay, but that's because the Earth is doing this, right?
Yes,
it's doing that actually, right?
In your model,
not because the day that we see it is because the Earth is doing
the constellations. No, the constellations all shift 360 degrees. So the constellations that are in the summertime now will be in the wintertime 12,000 years from now.
No, they won't.
Absolutely, yes, they will.
Summer. Yes, okay. I don't think that's right.
There are two precessions. I could be wrong because I think one's 103,000 years. So, but the precession of equinoxes is the one that turns the constellations. I've asked the astronomer, ask the expert, see what he says.
The precession turns the precession changes the position of the whole sky rotates a bit, but it doesn't. It doesn't move.
It does it in a circle, though. It
doesn't move in this way.
It doesn't do it like this. It does it like this. Right. And that changes the sky.
You spin a top, and it starts to wobble. The tip
I'm really
of it
curious
goes
to know.
In a circle, right?
So. Will you get an answer from him and see if he'll give us an answer? I don't have chat up. I can't see anything because I would really
Jim
like
Smith
to know.
Says, are you counting leap years? All right. The problem is he cannot answer that in one chat, just by typing in a chat.
Yeah,
right. That's not the right venue to get an answer.
Can he come on?
If you want, we can get him on if he's available. But he's just I think he just moved this weekend. He's in a new
Okay,
place. He moved
that's
from
fine. I
Texas to
get it.
Florida. All right. Yeah, he just said precession is like a top when it's wobbling. It's a 26,000 year cycle. Charles Arnold says precession changes our rotational axis in reference to our orbital plane. So it doesn't change that the location of the sorry. There's multiple things going on here, and I'm trying to put them in order. That's why I'm thinking about how to say it right. So it's not changing what time of year, the precession is not changing what time of year we see the constellations. That it does happen, and it's for a different thing. Yeah.
Like I said, I know there are two, and an expert would be able to tell me that. I
Yeah.
believe the expert. I mean,
All right. So
I believe an astronomer who tells me that it
Eric
is what it
says
is.
I can't come on data right now with no Wi-Fi in my apartment. It's like a Faraday cage. So there you go. Oh yes, Icy Spin says tune. It's simple. The ladder consisted of simply of 6 hydrocoptic marsal veins. So that's probably what it is.
What did you cut out? What did you say?
The ladder consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic marsal veins.
Oh, okay. I'm lost.
Yep. All right. Let me read a couple things here from the live chat. You are mopped. Says, hey, Toon, thanks for the interview. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you're wondering, if you have no idea what in the pook he's talking about, I just put the link right there. Watch it afterwards. I'm going to pin it. This is, he interviewed me this, everything merges together. It was last week. Interviewed me for his channel. And so there it is. You are mopped. And I had a good conversation. It's about an hour-long interview. And he asked me some things about AI and things that I had never said anything before, but I have pondered. So it was a good chat.
Cool.
So anyway, I pinned it. Go watch it. Thank you very much. We are mopped. You are mopped for that opportunity. NANA says, I heart Lake Titicaca. No, Lake Titicaca. Flat Earthers are dumb AF. There you go. Mr. E-Man gifted 5 memberships. Thank you for that. Delcos. Now, Delcos does a lot with AI. Delco says, GPT-4 cannot do anything other than basic math. These are generative models that cannot do calculations and cannot think ahead of what they are writing. You are reading into it like tea leaves.
Okay, well, I can verify the math that I can verify, and it's right on the math that I can verify.
Okay.
So
well, what
I think
you
does
might
do
want
math,
to do,
and he's obviously not using it.
What you might want to do is write up this stuff, right? Instead of just kind of having some scribblings or some stuff in your head, write it down, right? And if you look at the history of science, centuries of people writing down what they discovered, writing down their ideas, and sending it out to other people to say, what do you think? And the reason why you write it down is because it's coherent, it's together. It forces you to put together and to draw to some conclusion, to actually, if there's math that it does, that's involved, you put the math on the paper. And if you're like, I checked it myself, somebody else can come along and say, oh, let me check it too. So far, it's ChatGPT doing the math.
But no, because the math for refraction,
bullcrap.
I can do the refraction calculations for whatever you want. And the refraction calculations are what they are. So if you're saying they're that for a globe, they're also that for a flat Earth, because the surface isn't going to change refraction.
Yes, the radius of the arc won't change. Globe or
right.
or flat. The radius of the arc of the curving light won't change. So the thing is, if the Earth were flat, then nothing could ever appear below. Unless you're really close to the edge, nothing would appear significantly below 0, as your baseline for the no refraction condition.
See, okay,
and then
so
refraction,
the baseline on a flat Earth is refraction.
Let me finish. Let me finish my sentence. Flat. But let me finish my sentence. No refraction, right? Unless you're really close to the edge, right? If there's water spilling over it, the old style model. I generally nobody believes that, but if you're really close to that, then there would be a dip. But if you're anywhere, marginally far away from that, then the horizon, no refraction, would always be right at 0 and just a minuscule like 0.01001 whatever degrees below it, right? So essentially 0. But then you add in refraction, it will cause all of that to appear slightly higher. So everything needs to be slightly higher than 0.
It will not cause things to appear higher on a flat Earth. On a globe, it will if things are bending down over the curvature. On a flat Earth, you have the same angle, and the same angle is going to hit the ground over distance. The photons at the bottom of the object are going to hit the ground first,
yes,
making it appear to disappear from the bottom up, level to the horizon that's there.
That's not how it would look.
That is why. What do you mean it's not how it would work?
That's not how it would look.
Because the horizon is in front of me. Yes, it is how it would look. The horizon is in front of me. The building is here. And over distance, if I'm this far away, I don't have any graphics on me right now. It's hard to explain. But based on distance, if I'm this far away and the light is hitting my eye, the building's going to look higher, right? Look, light is hitting my eye, building's going to look higher. Light is hitting my shoes, not going to see the bottom of the building.
You still see the bottom because the light at the bottom of the building doesn't just go straight. It comes up. There's light that went up at an angle. It gets to your eye.
Again, if I'm getting light from a higher angle, it will look like the building is from a higher angle. Even if I change my perspective to a building by 10 feet, the building's going to look completely differently because I'm looking at it from a different angle. And that is clearly not what's happening when we're seeing objects across a body of water or anything else from 30 miles away. And the angular size of those objects must be taken into consideration, and it never is. Nobody is ever considering when we're looking at these boats that appear to go behind curvature, we're looking 10, 15, 20 miles in some cases. They're so small. Other things that I've seen are clearly mirages. I see these pictures of these boats that are allegedly behind curvature that are 50 times bigger than they should be, right? They're being magnified and stretched by the atmosphere.
How did you determine that, Chris? Come on.
50 is an exaggeration.
But how did you determine it was any bigger than it should be?
Because of how pixelated it was and how spread out everything was. Like the windows on it are like misshapen and oblong like this. Like everything just looks stretched out. Okay. It looks like it's stretched. And that's the thing when we're making
you can't be sloppy like that, man.
Unless I can go to it and measure it, which you can't either. You're looking at numbers and you're saying, well, the numbers say this, so that's what it is.
All right.
But you have no observation to back it up.
At the same zoom level, you can tell if it's at the same zoom level, whether something is magnified or not. So you do a side-by-side. You say, this was at, P900 full zoom. This was at P900 full zoom.
And the globies out there saying, oh, look, this is a globe, proof of curvature. They're going to do that, right?
No, that's the thing. People are biased. I want to say, you are saying that they are magnified.
In some cases, they are. Not every case.
And so I've not seen an actual side-by-side comparison where one was not magnified and one was magnified using the same conditions.
If something is stretched out, it's larger than it should be. And Rob Skiba did an experiment of the Chicago skyline already many years ago.
It was terrible. He assumed that it was magnified, not understanding how light works at all.
Well, that's what you say about everybody, though. They don't understand it. You do, and because you can look at numbers on a page and do equations, you know that the Earth is a globe.
It starts with empirical. Hold on. It starts with empirical.
Like pictures. So we can go to space. I can get 22,000 miles away from the Earth, but I don't have one picture of the dark side of the Earth from one of these satellites.
We have lots of pictures of the dark side of the Earth.
No, you don't. None. Find me a picture of the dark side of the Earth
produces
with the ring of the
every
sun.
Day.
Himawari 8 is a joke, Michael. That is a joke. Like if you really believe,
no, it's not.
The vegetation never changes on that image. That image stays the same.
Why?
The only thing that's being changed or overlaid is satellite data. So you've got the smoke that's overlaid from satellite data.
Dude,
You've got the
satellite
clouds
data.
that are overlaid from satellite data, satellite data wrapped around a ball.
First law of Flirt.
Right. Dude, it's true. And I believe in orbit. I have an explanation for orbit. I have an explanation for geostationary orbit. I have an explanation for orbital mechanics. I mean, ask and I'd be happy to explain it to you.
All right, explain orbit.
Okay, so the ISS is a velocity vector that is perpendicular to the acceleration vector of gravity. So gravity is an acceleration vector that is pointing to the ground because the mass of the flat Earth is equally distributed below the Earth. Gravity acts the same way. It's a creation made by God, right? So let's think about it in slower terms. So let's think about a plane in the atmosphere of Earth. If the gravity vector is pulling the plane straight down as the plane travels, the plane, when it shuts off its engines, would fall straight to the ground. But actually what's happening is because of the velocity of the plane, that gravity vector is being stretched, right? Look at the shape of that. So the faster I go, so if I shut off the engines, listen, if I shut off the engines, I'm going to fall to the ground in an arc, right? And the closer I get to the ground, the more drag there is, the more this gravity vector is going to line up. At the altitude...
Wait, a plane flies because of lift.
No, at the altitude of the ISS, you don't need lift, right? So if I have a rocket that can get the ISS up to the altitude where I don't need lift, where there's very little friction, where there's nothing to slow the ISS down, how does the ISS gain altitude? It speeds up a little bit, right? So over time, it would be like launching a baseball into orbit, and eventually over 50 years, it's going to fall back to Earth, right, in the heliocentric model.
Yeah.
But if we're thinking about the ISS with zero drag, traveling at 17,500 miles per hour, which is actually 16,000. And I think about that gravity vector that's pulling this way, it's going to break. It's like a rubber band, right? But if I think about orbit, so let's say I want to take a trip to the moon. If I think about orbital mechanics, I'm going to take the transfer orbit like this, and I'm going to go out to the moon at an angle that is more parallel to the vector of gravity, right? So when Kim Jong-un shot a rocket straight up 1,500 miles, when that rocket ran out of energy, it came straight back down to Earth about 30 or 45 minutes later, landed within a couple of 100 miles of where they launched it from, right? And that's because the gravity vector is pulling straight down. It's parallel, right, to these vectors of gravity. So if I want to achieve escape velocity is what it is, right? But we're not talking about escape velocity when we're stretching that vector based on speed, based on altitude, based on the fact that there's zero friction.
Why is the vector? But why is the gravity vector stretched based on speed?
Because let's imagine a baseball that we can propel at 500 miles per hour, and eventually that baseball is going to lose its energy, its forward momentum, and it's going to start to fall gradually. If gravity was pulling straight down, if that vector was pulling straight down on that ball would never launch in the first place, right? So think about walking. If I'm running and I trip, which I often do when I try to run, I'm going to fall on my face, right? I'm going to fall forward because I'm ahead of that. I still have that forward momentum. And if you imagine gravity pulling down, I mean, you can't make it be pulling straight down if you're moving 500 miles an hour across the surface because you're not going to fall. You're not going to fall straight down. You're going to fall based on the angle of that vector of gravity that's pulling you to the surface, and that is based on your speed. The way that I reconcile it, and I could be completely wrong. I could be wrong about everything. I want everybody to know that. I'm not saying that I am a genius or somebody on here saying, oh, I've disproved all of science, whatever. I find it very enjoyable to use my imagination and to come up with counter arguments about the globe model. I also find it that the Bible, the biblical model, to me is a flat earth model. And I'm very passionate about the book of Enoch. I'm very passionate about the scripture, but I don't know. And I'm not saying that if you don't believe what I believe about the earth, that God's going to judge you or anything like that. But I do think it makes life easier when you go through life with faith and when you recognize that there is a creator. Because here's the thing, this is why this argument's important to me. If the earth is what the Bible says, the only option is God in heaven. Right? There is no big bang if the earth is one-sided and resets in every direction. We are living in a program. We are living in what God made us to live in, and that's the earth that I believe we live on. And if God, Michael, you're making fun, or not making fun of me, but you talk to me about extra dimensions, and we laugh about it all the time. But where does God live? right? Does God live on a star or a planet, or is he from another galaxy? Is God an alien, or is God beyond everything that he created? And if God is beyond everything that he created, the physical laws are what God makes them. We don't see the sky revolve around us because we're living on a globe.
All right. Well, I just have to say, if you're like, oh, if the Bible's right, well, here, the Geneva Bible from 1650 says he buildeth his spheres in the heaven and hath laid the foundations of his globe on the elements of the earth. He calleth the waters of the sea and powereth them upon the open earth. The Lord is his name. So you're like, hey, the Bible says globe right there.
It doesn't. The 1611 King James Version says flat earth. Or not 1611, but the one that came right before that. And this is a translation, right?
The 1611 does not say flat earth. Hold on.
It was the one before that.
Chris, there is no version of the Bible that says the earth is flat.
Not the Geneva. Yeah, it's the Geneva Bible, I think, that did.
No version of the Bible says the earth is flat.
Yeah, every version of the Bible says the earth is flat. The earth is laid out on four corners.
There is no version of the Bible that says the earth is flat.
Where did Jesus go to see all the kingdoms of the earth, Michael? Where did Jesus go?
It was figurative. There is no mountain high enough.
Oh, so everything is figurative.
What is the name of that mountain that is in Israel that he was on? Let's go there today.
Oh, no. The name of that mountain is where Enoch was. Enoch said there was no firmament on that mountain. That when he looked up, it was dreadful.
Where is this mountain? You say this mountain exists.
It's not where we can go. It's where the devil is.
Where is this?
It's beyond the reaches of earth.
He was in Israel.
It's beyond where we are.
Jesus was in Israel for 40 days.
That mountain. That's what they named that mountain.
He was in Israel.
On a high mountain.
Chris,
is what Jesus said.
He was in Israel for 40 days.
So Jesus would have known he couldn't see all the kingdoms of the world from that little bitty mountain. Come on, man.
Exactly.
The devil took him up on a great and high mountain.
That's why the earth is a globe.
All of the kingdoms of the earth. Right? I mean, it's very
right there.
Where does the bottom of the pit open?
It says globe right there.
You can't make four corners. You can't make a circle. You can't make that anything other than a one-sided surface. And like I said, God is not the author of confusion.
It cannot be a circle and have four corners simultaneously. Obviously, it must be figurative.
Well, crap. Oh, okay. So how do I make a circle without a square? Like I have to square a circle.
No, you don't.
A perfect circle.
No, you don't. You don't have to square
a
circle. No,
you don't. A perfect circle is equal length. That's a square. There are angels standing on the four corners of the earth, the circle in the middle. Yes, absolutely. We can't get to a third of the earth, Michael. It's hidden. It's blocked by the angel Zotiel. Right. There's an angel at the Garden of Eden waving a sword in every direction.
Going all crazy.
Why are you laughing on me? No, that's what the Bible says. That's not what I'm saying. I mean, why would it be funny? Because it's impossible. Well, you know what else? Science says the resurrection of Jesus Christ is impossible. So do you believe that Jesus was raised from the dead?
Yes, I do. I think that was supernatural.
Then how do you believe that without science?
It violates science, absolutely.
So God used the Big Bang, something not supernatural, to create the earth, but used supernatural forces to raise Jesus from the dead.
Scientists don't have any claims about what happened before the Big Bang, and many Christians, including the one who came up with the Big Bang, to my knowledge, like, well, that sounds like something supernatural.
In Genesis, it says that the sun was created on the fourth day.
Yes.
Evening and morning were the first day. The light of the word of God, right? You've got the twilight on the horizon on both sides of the flat earth because of the light of the word of God.
The earth couldn't have existed physically, literally, as we have it today if the sun wasn't created until the fourth day. That doesn't make sense. Clearly, that cannot be a literal set of 24 hours times 7.
Certainly is. It most certainly is a literal set of 20 hours. And those days are important to God, right? That's why he said, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Evening and morning were the first day, Michael. That's a literal day. Evening and morning were the second day. That's a literal day. And the Bible couldn't make it any more clear.
But
this
the
is what
sun,
Christian apologists try to do. They twist it.
But Chris, the sun defines when a day begins and ends, and there's no sun until day 4.
Jesus is the light of the world. Jesus was on the earth. The light of the world was illuminating the earth, and evening and morning were the first day.
You just can't accept that something might be figurative. in a book of
It is.
poetry.
There are some things that are figurative. I do agree with that.
And so you pre-select your conclusion and say this must be figurative, this must not be figurative.
Any symbolism given in the text is defined in the text. And like I said, Michael, God is not the author of confusion. Men are, humans are, science is. Scientific establishment is the author of confusion.
Well, then why does the Bible? But the Bible says the earth is a globe, right there.
Not my Bible, and not the book of Enoch.
I choose that
with the Bible that is quoted out of the Bible. The book of Enoch chooses. Yeah, you choose what you want to see when it's not what it is.
It's all figurative. It's all interpretation. It's all nebulous. It's not a science book, Chris.
It is a science book.
No, it's not, because it says that
the book of Enoch is especially a science book.
No, my gosh, it's a science fiction fantasy background.
Then Jesus didn't raise from the dead, Michael. I mean, if it's all fantasy.
But Chris, you contradict directly contradict millions and millions of people of the same faith of you.
Millions and millions of people who have faith in what they were taught since they were little kids. They're not smarter than me. Are you kidding me? These people who I argue with, most of them don't even know the heliocentric model. Right? People will get on there and say, well, it's a globe, blah, blah, blah. This is why I have to educate people all the time, Michael, on how the heliocentric model works.
We'll just scroll down here. We've got Answers in Genesis, says the earth is a globe. You got the Institute for Creation Research, says the earth is a globe. You've got Creation Ministries International, says the earth is a globe. You've got Reasons to Believe, says earth is a globe. You've got Christian Research Institute, that says earth is a globe. You've got Sign of the Times. You've got Creation Experience Museum. You've got biblical scholars, Dr. William Lane Craig, Dr. William S.
What does the Bible say?
All of these people.
What does the Bible say?
All of these people will tell you. All of these people will tell you. Every one of them will tell you that's figurative.
The sun is in a race through the sky.
Every one of them.
Then why would the resurrection not be figurative?
Ask them. They don't agree with you.
Story?
They think that the Bible.
That doesn't mean they're right.
It doesn't mean you're right. It's figurative. Exactly. It's interpretation, Chris. It's all up to interpretation.
I have faith. I
you
don't deny
are applying
the interpretation.
Your interpretation is being directed by your pre-selected conclusion.
There's definitely interpretation going on here, and
there has to be. It's not clear. No. It doesn't say from the beginning, this is a scientific book and everything in it is literal.
The book of Enoch goes with the Bible. It goes with the Bible.
But the book of Enoch doesn't begin by saying, this is a science book and everything in it is literal.
But everything that the book of Enoch starts out with is science. It's telling you exactly how the cosmos works.
I've read it. There's no science in it. It's just
really
it's nonsense.
Really? So bullcrap. So Enoch figured out that the Earth had 365.25 days for a year. Enoch figured that out as ancient man. And that's just dumb. That's just when we didn't figure that out. It wasn't
Enoch that figured it out.
We didn't include that.
It was other people around that had figured it out. Because I want you to know. Will you just tell me, when was the book of Enoch written?
It was written before the 3rd century BC, like it says in Wikipedia. It was written before the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Which part?
Because the Epic of Gilgamesh talks about Noah. All of it. Of it.
Some was written.
All of it.
The second part was written in the 1st century AD.
Who said? What evidence do you have of this when the oldest copy of the Bible is in the 8th century? Like, honestly, man,
not that portion of Enoch,
Chris. Not that goes along,
Chris. Not that portion of Enoch.
The oldest book of Enoch we have is 800 years old.
Okay, but not the portion of Enoch that was written in the 1st century.
Except for fragments, and it's because of the Ethiopian church that kept it. The Ethiopian church kept it in the. It has
nothing to do with the date that it was written. Part of it was written in the 1st century AD. It was written by different authors, and none of them were Enoch.
Who says?
The research I did. I can't pull it up right now.
Of course. That's what I'm saying. So people say all kinds of things.
Yeah. So the people that have studied that topic, when Enoch was written,
and I've studied that
there's
topic.
two portions of it.
I've read the book of Enoch more than 99% of the people on the earth.
Fine. Two different people wrote it at least at 2 different times, and none of them were Enoch, by the way.
How do you know?
Because Enoch died significantly before
then how did
the
it
3rd
end up in the
century
Bible?
BC.
So the Bible's just not true. How did it end up in the book of Jude if it wasn't true?
It did not end up
in the Bible. It most
Bible.
certainly did.
No.
Jude
No, it's
quotes the
not.
very first chapter of Enoch.
Yeah, he has a
Why don't you?
one couple a passage of a couple words. Does not
No, it's not a
saying
passage.
not
It's
not
word for word verbatim.
not saying
Enoch
this
tells
is
us.
Bible. It's not saying this is Bible. It's saying Enoch
No,
tells
no,
us that
here's the
doesn't.
thing.
It doesn't.
Remember, John the Revelator said that do not add anything or take anything of from the words of this book, or all of these plagues will be added unto you. You know what they did? They added the entire book of the Bible to the book of Revelation. And they took out all of the scripture that was important that the early church, first century, second century, part of the third century, the early church was reading all of the scripture, and a Roman emperor came along and made 66 books of the Bible, which is not even the number of God. That's the number of the devil.
66.
Right? In the Bible.
Hold it. You're off by a factor of 10 and then 6 more.
The Apocrypha is not considered canon.
No, you said 66 is what? What number is 66?
The number of the devil.
No, it's not.
Combined with the number of men, 666. The number of men is 6.
What
Men
number
interpreting
of men? What do you mean
Bible,
number of men?
The number of man is 6.
What do you mean the number of man?
The number of man is 6.
So where did that come from?
How did
you take the number of books of a Bible and then just, hey, let me just pick another 6 that I
before
that
the
one's 6.
Books,
I'm going to grab
warns
that
you
and
about
drop it right in. Where did that come from?
Before the 66, John warned you about the 66. He warned you about the 666 before it was ever added. Before there weren't 66 books of the Bible ever until the Roman Emperor Constantine. Didn't exist.
But how?
The Bible was.
But wait, you slid right past this. You said 66 is the number of the beast, but it's not. The number of the beast is either 616 or 666, and the beast is Nero.
What is the number of man?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. You've just
Why
arbitrarily
44,000 denominations in Christianity.
Just arbitrarily chosen.
Chris, why are the only people who Jesus cast away from him into hell the ones who say, "Lord, Lord, in your name we cast out devils and did all of these"?
Why can't you stay on topic, Chris? Come on.
The other people didn't know who he was.
Chris, you are claiming that 66 is the number of the beast.
No, 666 is the number of the beast.
But you said 66
is the number of man. 6 is the number of man. Okay. It says, "He who has wisdom will be able to calculate the sum of the beast," which is 666. Right? That was John the Revelator in 70 to 90 AD wrote that.
But how did you
over
get
150 years?
How did you get from 66 equaling 666?
Because it's the sum of. It's not 666. It's the sum of 666.
18.
No, the sum of. So it's the number of man along with the mark of the Antichrist. And I'm not saying it's the Bible. What I'm saying is the Bible is the 66 books of the Bible is not a God number.
Don't go off this number. You keep going away from this. How is the sum of 666 equal to 66?
It's the number of man. It's the
sum
number of man.
But the sum, if you add the digits of 666, you get 18.
What do we call the Bible? We call the Bible the Word of God.
Well,
right?
stop, Chris. Stop.
The Bible the Word of God.
Stop. Stay on this topic, please. I'm begging you, stay on this topic. Stop running from it. Chris, how is 666 summing to 66? Or 6?
No.
Or what?
Because you combine all three. You combine the number of man,
18.
which is 6, with the 66 books of the Bible.
18.
And you come up with 44,000 denominations of Christianity.
No.
And
when you sum, Chris, stop. Chris, when you sum 66 plus 6, you get 72.
It is the sum of all of the different numbers. So 6 and 66. Right?
72.
The number of man and 66.
72.
But it's what these things represent.
Okay, we're at 72. What's next?
So what did the Bible become? The Bible became the Word
Chris,
of God.
stop. We're at 72. I'm gonna write this down for you so that you can't get off track.
Obtuse.
No, I'm not, Chris. You are not explaining. You are making these weird claims. You're saying summing things.
It's not a weird claim.
Don't know why. This is off on weird stuff here, but fine. We've got.
Why are you getting emotional?
66 because you refuse to stay on topic. 6. All right, hold on. I'm gonna put this on screen here. All right, 66, and then we add in another 6, right?
No, you don't add it in. You put it next to the 6, and the interpretation
With
of
72.
man of the Bible
But why are
becomes
you concatenating
part
6
of
on
that
the end of
system.
that? But how is it that you are that all right? So forget that. So it's a different formula. All right,
Read the passage. It's Revelation 13, verse 6.
You've
Read
got
it and see what it
all right, hold on,
says.
66, and then for some reason you're concatenating on another number. And where did you get that number?
Because it's the number of man. It separates 6 in the passage. It says 6 is the number of man. He who has wisdom will be able to calculate the number of the beast, which is 600
Okay.
and 6.
What does that have to do with the number of books in the canon?
Because 6 is not the number of God. 6 is the number of the Antichrist.
But what does that have to do with the number of books in the canon?
Well, I mean, if it's the number of God, you would have a number of completion, a number like 77 or 88 or 33 or 99,
but
not
what
66.
But what does that have to do with the number of books in the canon?
It's the number of man. It's the interpretation of man.
66
God
is the
never
number
ordained the Bible.
66
God never ordained 66
66
books of the Bible.
So 66 is the number of man.
6 is the number of man.
Okay.
66 are the 66 books in the Bible.
Okay,
the
but
interpretation
why?
of man.
But why is 66 related to this then?
Because it's the number of the beast.
66 is not the number of the beast.
6 is the number of the beast because it's the number of man who is a beast.
6 is not the number of the beast.
It's not the number of God. It's not the number of completion.
Okay, but why does the number of books in the canon have anything to do with 666?
It doesn't, Michael. It doesn't. It doesn't matter.
I mean, you're trying to
something.
Okay, thank you. You're trying to pull all these things together. It doesn't matter. It's just you're just grasping at these things.
Well, the Book of Enoch was read by the early church, and they considered it important. And to completely throw it out and say that it's not important,
yeah,
and
but it violates everything.
Have significance.
It completely violates everything about reality that we go and measure. So no, basically,
I've just shown you that the reality that you measure, you're sitting here off of assumption saying it's a sphere.
No, it's not an assumption.
You did not show that it's a sphere. You provided no evidence that it's a sphere.
Chris,
you provided a bunch of numbers for refraction.
You didn't give me a chance to show that it's a sphere. If you want me to show you that it's a sphere,
yeah,
I'm glad
absolutely. I want
to show you
that
it's a sphere.
100,000%, Michael. Let's get this over with.
All right.
Damn it. I'll be the one. You prove to me it's a sphere. I'll say tonight, right now, the Earth is a globe, and I'm no longer a flat Earth.
All right. So what evidence will you accept?
Verifiable evidence that I can't counteract with an argument that's better.
No, be specific, Chris, because if I'm going to give you something, I don't want to all right. What will you accept?
It depends on whether I can make a counter to it.
You're going to say to anything I give you, Chris.
Of course, because I can make a counter argument to every argument that you have, and my counter argument is better.
No, it's not.
Well, it doesn't have all of the numbers that you need to make the globe model work, right? It's more simple because it works in a simple way. It's not something where you have to have complicated refraction equations to make the Earth radius, the refraction perfectly follow the Earth radius. No, it's very simple. The index of refraction is what it is, right? I don't need to assume the radius of Earth to calculate refraction.
Neither do I.
But you do.
No, I don't. You don't have to. There's ways to do it other than that. But all right, here you go. Yeah, let me share this.
Hey, Michael, do you care if I go get a drink real quick?
Yes.
You do care?
Go ahead.
It'll be like 5 seconds. I'll be right back. I need to wet my mouth.
Dear. Oh my goodness. Just pulls random numbers out of nowhere. As it's like he wouldn't stay on the topic. Whoa, my gosh, that was painful. All right, let me. Somehow, 66 is the number of the beast because when you sum things, like we get 72. And somehow, I don't get. Yeah. All right. All right. He's back. Let me get this in. All right. Hold on. I know what I'm. All right, I'm gonna start with I'm gonna start with the reciprocal zenith angles. So that
Are we going to get into celestial stuff? Because this will be fun.
I mean, you want to go into celestial stuff, but no.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're talking about zenith angles of what?
No, a zenith angle is so zenith is in when you're measuring zenith angles, zenith is straight up.
Right.
So a zenith angle is how far it departs from straight up.
Right. So, it's the angle between.
So straight up is 0, and then tipping down by 10 degrees. Well, that's
right.
a 10-degree zenith angle.
Right.
Perpendicular to that is 90.
90 degrees, right. I understand. We're talking about the declination of the sky, which I'm
this isn't the sky. This is
okay.
We're not talking about the sky here. We're talking about measuring things on the earth.
Oh, okay.
Cool. So all right, let's see here. So here is just look at the diagram here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So these are two stations. I should get a better one queued up, but I don't have it. All right. So these two stations, each of these triangles represents a station on the earth. All right, hold on. I should get you a better diagram. Let me see if I have. Oh, wrong one. Opened up a spreadsheet.
What is that in inches?
So this is,
we're using miles.
This is all right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll instead of reciprocal zenith angles, I'll look at this one. I'll show you this one because this is, yep. All right. So let me scroll to the top here. This is Jesse Kozlowski, a surveyor. Here he is looking through a theodolite.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is a sample image. This isn't the measurement. The measurements aren't done using a phone taking a picture through the telescope.
Mm-hmm.
That you aim the crosshairs at the thing you're measuring, and then you read off of the instrument the angle. So if you're looking across a lake and you're using the surface of water as your reference, right? For flat Earth, if you have two things at the same elevation above water, then from each side, you must measure 90 degree zenith angle if they're at the same elevation, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
This is, of course, neglecting refraction. So assuming there's zero refraction. If the Earth is a globe, then a distant object across a lake, when we're using the surface of the water as our reference point, and so we're both the same elevation above the water, then that distant object must tip down a little bit, so your angle to it must be more than 90 degrees. Right? Okay. Your zenith angle. So this is the view through it. And so this is a picture across, let's see if this is a bigger, there it is, across the lake. So this is a reservoir. I think it's a dam on one side. So this is about 1.4 miles, I think, is how far he is. So what he did is he set up on both sides a thing to get an elevation above the water. So he put this nail into the ground, measured it to be a certain amount, the top of that nail to be a certain amount above the surface of the water. He used this level here, you see that level, to get the nail that was above the surface of the water.
That looks pretty janky to me, but
to another nail. It's not janky. It's a level. Is a level something that is if you have,
well, yeah, I mean, when you're determining exactly elevation and stuff like that, like the tools he's using.
Yeah, so he's transferring this elevation above. He's 60 centimeters above the surface of the water.
Okay.
And so then he's transferring that nail on the water over to a nail above, that's not above the water, because he's not going to set up his instrument above the water. He wants to set it up over land because he needs to use it, right? So that level is transferring that. So here he's showing a zoom in of the bubble, and then a side view to see how he, you know, his methodology here. So he's moving that, transferring this.
Well, I lost it. Oh, okay.
So here we go. Right. So he's got these two nails and he's moving it across and he puts the bubble level across it. So anybody saying that, you know, he's not doing it well enough, it must be done better. Well, then it's on that person to do a better job. Right. Not to say I would do a better job. Right. Do the better job. Then.
But this is your best evidence, dude. I mean, you're going to do.
Hold on.
This
because like we said, it must. If the surface of the water is flat, then they must. But
there's tension there's tension in the water, man. I mean, and we're talking about 60 millimeters.
What about 60 millimeters? Yeah, he's 60 millimeters.
So, but
above the surface of the water.
The water surface itself is not perfectly flat.
I agree. It's curved.
There's little ripples, and I mean, if you look at a waterfall tells you water.
There's no waterfall. This is a reservoir, so it's calm. Look at that lake.
And there's tension.
Look at that lake.
I see it, Chris. But there's still ripples. There's still, you're not thinking about angular size across that distance.
Yes, I am thinking about angular size
of this.
Okay.
Are we? Where's angular size calculated in this?
It's later.
Okay.
All right. So, all right. He's transferring. So he's what he's done is he's determined a certain elevation above the water and he's transferred it over. Right. So now he's measuring it here to this bar here. That is the thing on the I think this is the tripod, or no, this is he has on one side he has a tripod holding a target and the other side he has a tripod holding the theodolite, and he swaps them back and forth. He measures it in both directions.
Did he put a level on that tape?
On what tape?
That he's holding?
This tape? He doesn't need to put a level on it. He's measuring up. He's measuring the height. So he's getting the height above the previously established water level from that what he did.
You kind of, I mean, okay. Sure.
Okay. So this is the target. This one's the target. This one's the theodolite here. So there's the target right in the center there. So he's getting them both at the same elevation. So here's a standalone picture of the target across, and you can see across the lake, nice and smooth. And here's his theodolite right in the middle. There is the elevation.
Okay.
So he's getting them the same. This is the theodolite there, the telescope. You can see through it there. And here's another example view through it. And of course, again, this isn't the measurement. This is what he looked through. This is what it looked like when he look through it. So in a little zoom in there, and you can see it's that crosshair is a little above the target. So what he did is he tilted down the crosshair to be right on the target.
Okay.
And he's 7,311 feet away. They're 1.613 meters above the spikes, which are both set 60 millimeters above the water. And then he's measuring these zenith angles from both sides. So he measured it. He measured 6 from the mean zenith angle of 6 sets measured from copper 1 to copper 2 is 90 degrees, 33.17 arc seconds. Standard.
Oh my gosh, that did it. I'm a Globey man. That is the best evidence I have ever seen in my life, Michael.
I'm not done yet, Chris. But I mean, and so standard deviation 0.75, standard error of mean is there 0.31. All right.
Okay.
So he does the other direction. Again, certain elevation above the water and 60 millimeters above the water. Now, you agreed, Chris. You agreed before we went into this that if the Earth is a sphere, then it must be more than 90, and if the Earth is flat, then it must be 90. Right? You agreed to that.
Because refraction is going to make it look like there's more than 90.
Hold on, Chris. You agreed to that. You did not say refraction beforehand, but I will be glad.
But we have to account for refraction.
I will be glad to account for refraction exactly once we get to it. But you agreed to that, Chris. Don't make yourself a liar, Chris.
Don't put words in my mouth, Michael, because we're on video and I can remember what I said.
Chris, I'm not putting words in your mouth. You agreed
You're putting words in my mouth because I never agreed to anything. I said if you prove to me that the Earth is a
No,
sphere,
Chris.
where I
Yeah, yeah.
can't make a counter argument.
After that, I made it clear. I asked you. Remember the part where I said, if the Earth is flat, then you use water. And if you have two things at the same elevation above water and you measure them, the zenith angles must be 90. You said yes. And then I
Yeah.
said, if the
Yeah.
Earth is a sphere, the surface of the water is curved. And if you use the surface of the water at two things at the same elevation above the water, then the zenith angle must be more than 90. You said that.
Okay.
You agreed to that.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going.
All right. So he goes through more of his methodology.
I probably should listen to you more.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, he's being very methodical here. He's showing he did the measurements from both sides. He put the targets on both sides.
Going through a bunch of BS.
So, all right. None of this is BS. This is what
it
surveyors
is. It
do.
is because his measuring tools are based on his word. Showing you.
What are his measuring tools based on?
And you're looking across over a mile of water that has water tension and ripples on the water. I haven't seen anything about the angular size of these objects.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Where he's doing the angular size measurements, but
okay.
Right. But I mean you're sounds like you're trying to go off on tangent and try to nitpick on things that this surveyor, who's very good at his trade.
I'm just not impressed.
He's
maybe he is.
Why would you not be impressed? Look, he is doing all this due diligence. He's taking all these pictures along the way of all these things he's doing. You've done none of this. Yeah. No flat earther has ever done any of this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Right. You agreed to the parameters ahead of time.
We're doing a 1.3 mile test here, Michael. I mean, there's nothing that you're going to show here with excess. Right.
So here we go. All right. We get to the bottom. I'll keep moving, and you're talking about angle, right? So he talks about his angles there from 2 to 1. So he did angles 1 to 2, 2 to 1. Okay. What?
Go scroll back up because I didn't see what you're talking about there.
All right. So he's summarizing the 6 sets of measurements. So that's actually 12 measurements.
Okay, and 0.21 inches, that's the actual size of the object, not the angular size of it.
No. All right. From
60 millimeters.
I'll read it. The mean zenith angle of 6 sets measured from copper 2 to copper 1 is 90 degrees, 0 arc minutes, 26.67 arc seconds. This double quote here is seconds, not inches. All right, it's arc seconds. Standard deviation, 0.52 arc seconds. And this one is 0.21 arc seconds. So standard. So this is the error margins. This is evaluating whether or not his measurements are quality, like how much likelihood that he is to be close to the actual value. Because in meat space, nothing is perfect. Everything you ever measure has some sort of error bars, and so when you have a good measurement, then with
and do you think that's affected by bias?
Hold on, somewhere inside the error bars. In a good measurement, somewhere inside the error bars is the actual true value. And the closer that you have the standard deviation, the more likely you are to have the true value in between your numbers there. So that's what he's doing there. Okay. So yes, bias, if he did anything wrong, then the methodology is well spelled out here. And it's open to be pointed out what errors he did. Now he did this.
I still haven't seen the calculation of angular size.
He did this in 2016, and no flat earther has come and said, "Here is the methodological error that you've ever done." I know, but
I've never seen any survey.
I want to be clear.
Angular size,
Chris. If he made an error, then somebody needs to point out the error. Just saying I don't believe it isn't a pointing out of the error.
If I'm standing in front of a 60-foot tall building, I've got to look up at it, right? But when it's across a 30-mile body of water, it's in that direction.
You don't look up as much.
So that's a significant. No, you look down. Course. You look down.
If you're how far?
30 miles. 30 miles. Let's say a 60-foot building from 30 miles.
You're still looking up.
No, I would be looking down. The angular size of that building would be smaller or shorter than I am looking at the horizon. The angular size of the sun is 0.5
Okay.
degrees,
All right,
Michael.
all right, all right.
That would be smaller than the angular size of the sun. It would probably be around 0.2. And people who can figure it out can definitely do that.
All right.
It'd probably be more like 0.3.
All right. Well, here we are. All right. He did a bunch of GPS stuff as well.
All those numbers, all that math.
All right.
Make it make sense to people who understand
This is just some of his due diligence here, but this is, here we get to the real work here. So now the angular size, let me say the angular size, there is no angular size that of the object because he's just measuring the zenith angle. So the angular size is not a thing. So what the angular size of what?
It should when you're determining how much that object.
The angular size of what?
The screw he's using.
What screw? There's no screws
Whatever
anywhere.
he's aiming at.
He's aiming at the target.
Where is the target?
I'll show on the other side of the lake. I'll show you a picture of the target.
Didn't you say it's 60 millimeters above the surface of the water?
The nail is, and then he transferred it here to 1.613 meters. So the center of his theodolite and the center of the target are both at 1.613 meters above the spike, which is 6 centimeters above the surface of the water. So that's what it looks like through the theodolite. But let me get a front face of the target. There it is. There's what the target looks like. It's actually got a mirror in it. You can see Jesse's face in the mirror. You see that?
Hey, Jess. Yeah, I do.
So, all right. And then there's all these things in the target to help them aim towards the target to get a very precise aim. So there's no what the angular size of something. It's a point. It's not the angular size of the object. So, but he is doing.
I see what you're saying.
All right. So he is doing the angular calculations here, and that's what this is. So I'll open this. So, all right. Oh, that's a little too zoomed in. So here he has 1 to 2 and 2 to 1. It's the two different places that he's looking at right here. So you see standpoint 1, elevation, 4.2, elevation, delta elevation. And you've got then observed angle, 90 degrees, 0 minutes, 33 arc seconds. Computed delta arc. So this is this delta arc here. You see this? This is the angle that it should be, that you should have. So anyway, or the angle that he got. So the distance is 1.38 miles. And here is, he took that angular drop and he applied it to 1.38 miles and did the simple trigonometry to get the drop in feet. So it's 1.28 feet. Right there, 1.28 feet over 1.38 miles. Yeah, When you do the math on that, you will find it's 8 inches per mile squared. That's what he measured right there. A linear drop from horizontal. And this picture here shows you, right? So you've got on the left side, you've got your horizontal plane. And then you've got on the right side where it says drop down to the target. So that angle there, of course, it's exaggerated in this view. But that's the drop that must happen if the Earth is a globe, and there was a drop. All right, now
and it would happen if the Earth is flat and refraction is constant because the Earth is flat.
Okay, now
because refraction on a flat Earth is always going to be happening, and it's always going to be based on distance and altitude.
Right, one more time. Refraction causes things to appear higher.
No, it does not. Not if something is lower than you or at your line of sight, and the Lake Pontchartrain power lines prove that. Again, your graphic, Batman, shows the light hitting the ground before it hits your eyes. The only way you're going to see an object from higher if it's hitting your eyes. Chris, on a flat Earth, it's hitting the ground. It's never even reaching you.
I want you to know what I'm doing right now is I'm letting you dig your own grave. So go ahead.
Dude, I'm not worried about digging my own grave. I'm not worried about what people say or what people think.
Yeah, go ahead.
What I am worried about is cutting through the BS of the heliocentric model that is based on nothing but
Chris,
math
you
can twist.
No, it's not math. Those were real measurements, Chris. Don't lie. That was a real measurement, Chris.
They're real measurements.
He really went out in the field and he really measured something. So if you're saying it's just math, you're lying.
Well,
quit it, Chris.
It is just math. It's a mathematical assumption. So let me show you
why
it's
not. This is not an assumption. This was real.
You're basing.
He really went out there. He has pictures showing that he was out there. He was really there, Chris. This isn't just math. Stop
Let me hand you the
it.
shovel and let's do the real math, okay?
This is
So the real math for a globe is not looking in one direction at the radius and saying the drop of the radius is this, right? Because the drop of the radius will never do this, right? It'll never come back the other way. And if we cut a globe up into 360 sections, Michael, each of those degrees is shaped exactly the same way. So if I travel in a straight line around a sphere the size of Earth, I'm traveling 24,901 miles in a straight line. As I drop around the center, 15,836 miles. So if we take the sphere instead of the radius and we calculate the sphere based on each individual degree, each of those individual degrees are shaped exactly the same way around that ball. So the radius calculation is meant to act as a deceptive tactic from the scientific establishment instead of considering the drop around the center of mass, which is what it should be. And if we break that up and we look at 360-degree sections, each of those sections is 69 miles long. I mean, depending on what mile you're using or what degree you're using, but 69 miles long, and they're going to have to drop by 0.6. And that is the same around the entire surface because every degree is shaped the exact same way. If you're looking one direction, you're looking off of a cliff, I can only measure from here to there. But if I want to determine what the drop actually is around the surface of a sphere, I'm going to consider the entire surface and the center of that sphere that I'm doing a circle around because it's the same, right? Would you agree or disagree with that?
I wasn't
Is
even
every
listening,
degree
Chris.
of this sphere
I don't care, Chris.
not even the same?
All you
course,
did was all you're doing
that
is denying that this was actually done in the field.
That
Chris.
is, it's no, I'm not denying that it was done in the field.
You're saying that somehow
you're
this,
the
which doesn't include
and a 1 foot drop,
yeah,
a 1 foot drop over a 1.3
Chris,
mile body of water with somebody who's already believing that the Earth is
Chris,
a globe. Because
show where he did it wrong.
Dude,
show where he forced. Show where he
it.
Forced in was exactly. So you're concluding that he forced in the radius.
How much angle?
Without
how much angle
any
differential?
Evidence, Chris. That is the tactic of a liar,
wrong.
Chris.
I'm not being a liar. That's wrong. I don't know if he manipulated it or not, but I know.
Then don't claim he did.
Of water,
Chris,
I know
don't claim he manipulated it if you don't know.
I'm claiming the Earth isn't a globe.
You don't have anything for it, though, Chris. All you're doing is saying no to this.
I'm telling you that if we apply refraction to a flat Earth, it's going to make a horizon that looks like a globe. That's what I'm telling
it won't.
You.
Show me the math. Show me the math. Apply the refraction for it.
Standard refraction index.
Show it.
That's basically what it is.
Show how it
for
works.
What? Give me a scenario. Give me a scenario for it.
Show how a refraction will cause something to appear lower with distance.
Because the light is hitting the ground from the bottom of the object.
Show the math. Show the math.
I've already showed the experiment, dude. I did my own experiment.
Show the math for applying refraction for something that is
that page. 10
miles away, appearing lower.
Go back to the page you were on that shows how the refractive index of 1.0003 is going to make, or 1.003, no, 0003. Show me how the refractive index of 1.0003 is going to make your light curve over the surface of a sphere.
It's not a single index of refraction. Chris,
it's the same on a flat Earth.
Index of refraction gradient.
So if you take this angle, right?
Chris, you can't even enter into the conversation because you don't know that it requires an index of refraction.
You just said you ignored everything I said.
It requires an index of refraction gradient, not a single index of refraction.
And so does it on a flat Earth because as I get closer to the ground, the gradient is getting thicker.
So show the application of it.
It's just standard refraction without the assumed
go ahead,
Michael.
Run through the math
for the globe.
Show me the geometry.
So it's the same numbers for the globe. What I've been doing is I've just been applying the standard refractive index and including moisture content in the air.
I'll put you full screen and you can show your full screen right now. You can show the application of standard refraction on flat Earth, making distant things appear lower.
Okay. Can I share my screen so I can show my experiment? Hold on just a second. Let me
No.
up real quick.
I'm asking you to show.
Dude, I've got
said
a
the math.
physical experiment.
You said the math, Chris.
Oh crap. Hold on.
You said the
Yeah,
map.
the map goes along with the
Show me the
experiment.
map.
There's no difference.
Show me the
There's
map.
no difference. What do you want? What do you want the map for?
I want
That's
you
what
to
I'm saying.
show
Give me a
the map
scenario.
applying.
Give me a scenario and I will show you the map.
Absolutely. Show me the math for how a distant object 10 miles away will appear lower using standard refraction.
Okay, well, there really doesn't need to be any math because it's geometry, which you can look at.
Geometry is math.
If I have a building that's here and I'm looking at that building and I'm here as the observer, I'm looking down at the building. All of the light from the building is not coming in this direction to my eye as the observer. It is coming straight from the building, which is actually here, right? So the building,
I don't know.
distance,
You're saying here.
This light is parallel.
Wait, what's here? What's here?
Do you see the arrow?
You haven't shared your screen.
You can't see my screen. God,
Chris, you're killing me.
You never. Oh gosh. Okay, so imagine a building that's here
share
and an observer that's here. Well, I wasn't ready. You didn't want me to show my experiment.
I want you to show the math, Chris. You said
the math.
You said the math supports it
for a globe without.
But the math for the globe. Hold it, Chris. Let me tell you. The math
for the globe includes the radius.
Let me finish my sentence before you jump in. When you apply refraction on the globe, it causes distant objects to appear higher. Now, you are saying the math makes distant objects appear lower. Show it.
On a flat Earth.
Show it.
On a flat Earth. And it's geometry.
Show the geometry.
Let me see if I've got something here where I can show it.
You can.
Hold on. Let me drag these things in here real quick.
Draw it on a piece of paper.
Hold on. I'm going to draw it in paint real quick. Let me get a new thing here and I'll draw it real quick. Let me look at. It'll take me just a second, man. Let me see what we got going on.
All right. How about you think about that for a little bit?
You talk and I will. Right. You do super chats or whatever.
Bosno says Siggy Sidwell. Siggy Sig is a legend. This milestone chat is sponsored by him. Mr. E-Man said, did I miss all the evidence and measurements again? Perhaps I will have to pay more attention in the future. You will. Steve6464 says, wouldn't refraction on a flat Earth make the Earth look concave? Indeed it would. Hugh Jars says, idiots talking about things they know nothing about will always be hilarious. Thanks for the laughs, Chris. And that's Hugh Jars saying that. Do you know Hugh?
I have no idea who Hugh or anybody is, really.
He's Hugh. Ableist says, Chris, think in 3D.
I am thinking in 3D.
Melodic lyrics. Yep, I am doing that right now. Stringer News 1 says, I keep telling the voices in my head, write it down. But do they? No. Delcos says, all right, so Delcos knows about, he deals with AI a lot. Says, I personally tested 4 on MMLU, that'd be ChatGPT-4 or GPT-4, right? On MMLU and OBQA, both benchmarks say you're wrong. It cannot do math. It's an architectural limitation.
I disagree.
Well, I don't know. I don't have GPT-4, so I can't test it myself. But
yeah, I mean,
Delcos, I would actually, Delcos, if you have that, maybe you can come on sometime and we can go over how ChatGPT or GPT fails to do math other than just the simple stuff. I have tested it myself, and I have found whatever is the free version lacking in anything other than the most basic
definitely the free version definitely does.
So fact-based says, who's been a member for 3 months, says, I have no scientific understanding or knowledge, but I know I'm right. Refuses to listen or learn from actually intelligent Tune. Thank you for that.
Tune, your graphics showed the light hitting the ground. I don't know why you're disagreeing with me.
Because it showed that you would see it higher. Chronic Avenger said object will look higher with downward refraction. You just said it. I don't know why on flat Earth it would be any different. My diagram shows it on with a flat bottom there.
Because the light is hitting the ground. What the heck do you guys not understand about this?
Not all the light does.
All of it does.
No, it
That is
doesn't.
coming straight to my eye. Yes, it does. Again, if light is coming this way, I'm seeing the building from here. If light is coming this way, I'm seeing the building from here. If I'm looking at photons that are coming up from the building in this direction, then I would see the building from a higher angle. That is not what we're seeing. And refraction, the way that you applied it to a globe, Mike, I can make things disappear over 4 or 5 miles with that refraction. I can make things disappear more than that. If it's that variable, I mean, there are things in the distance that would disappear over a mile away. And the math does not add up. And if you would have listened to me about how you should calculate the actual curvature of your sphere instead of ignoring me, you would know that I'm right. And you're completely wrong. And the people who walk by sight instead of by faith, you're looking at pictures that NASA gives you. You're looking at all of these numbers on paper. You're looking at these experiments done by biased people.
You
with
just
no
want to
evidence.
take things on
For
faith?
one, you can't
you want to just take things on faith? All right,
absolutely.
hold on. Here is
absolutely.
Here is
the Bible on faith.
Here is the refraction applied to flat Earth. You see that there? What conditions would be necessary for this to be seen on flat Earth?
How far are they away? Where's I would have to look at it,
about
man. There's
6
a lot
and
of
9,
stuff.
6.2 miles away, and let's see, one is 6.2, the other I think is 9 miles away.
Well, I can tell you right now that I can see the water beyond this horizon, and if you'll send me that picture, I'll enhance it and I'll show you.
Right. Well, this is a simulation that is doing a ray trace.
Oh, okay.
Of
So we're looking at simulations. We're not looking at actual things.
The question I asked, and this is answering, what conditions would be necessary to see this if the Earth were flat? What temperature conditions would be necessary? And the answer is up there on screen. It's up on the top.
I'm looking at it.
The answer is that at 0 degrees
I see the
elevation, you would need 18 degrees Celsius, a high temperature. And then at 100 feet, this is mixing feet and Celsius. Sorry, people. At 100 feet, the temperature would need to be about 12.5 degrees Celsius. So the problem is that what you've got is high temperatures low and low temperatures high. This condition does not happen well because they want to swap. And when this condition happens, you see incredible.
No, you're again assuming a globe because the standard downward refraction.
This is assuming flat Earth. Don't say that this is assuming a globe. This is assuming flat Earth. This is hypothesizing
downward refraction.
Nothing standard about this.
Yes, everything is downward because the density layer is denser the lower you go.
That's right, but this is in order for this to match flat Earth, this is reversing that. This is putting the
based on globe math.
No, based on flat Earth math.
How's it based on flat Earth math?
Because number one, this is hypothesizing that the Earth is flat. Do you see that
where are your settings? I'm not seeing it.
Right here. Do you see that that diagram to the left of the chart?
Okay.
Okay, that diagram to the left of the chart has the two
That's
platforms.
upward refraction.
Yes.
That's not what we're seeing. We're seeing downward refraction.
This is modeling upward refraction, which is what's necessary.
That's not what that is. No, it's not. The light from an object in the distance is going to hit the ground. I proved it with an experiment. You won't let me show my laser experiment that proves
I'll let you, but you're not ready for it. You got to show the math first. You said you could apply math. I want to see the math.
No, I'm absolutely ready for it.
Okay.
I'm applying the math of downward refraction. From a distant object that is parallel to the ground.
Chris, this is what I'm telling you.
If I'm looking at it, the light that's hitting my eye is parallel to the ground.
You got to let me finish, Chris. This is modeling an observation, right? So this is an observation. This is what's seen. This is an actual
it's not what's seen. It's a simulation.
No, Chris. I'm telling you, a still from a video shows this here. And so that picture from the video was taken and put into this model that is then modeling that and saying, well, what is necessary for this to be seen if the Earth is flat.
No, it's assuming the angular size of these objects is sticking up above your line of sight for one. And if it was, I would see it from higher. If this was above my line of sight, I would see it from higher. Anything at or below my line of sight, which depending on how tall these are from 9 miles away,
you're not getting what I'm saying.
Will depend on the radians above the horizon.
You're not getting what I'm saying, Chris.
I completely get what you're saying. You're trying to show me upward refraction and saying that's the only way this can happen when I'm telling you downward refraction on a flat Earth would cause this.
Okay. And so what I've done though, Chris, is I've shown you the modeling for this is
upward refraction.
This is upward refraction is what's necessary for this observation to happen on flat Earth.
No,
but you say different. You say differently, and I want to see the modeling like this, like I've done here, like I've provided. I didn't do this, but I've provided here.
I got sidetracked today. I was planning on being prepared more than I was for this, but I had things to do, and I'm telling you that if you do an experiment yourself by creating a denser medium, like with sugar water or whatever it is, the light is going to bend down and it's going to hit the ground over a very short distance. If you use sugar water, I can make the light hit the ground over a 6-foot surface. And I proved that. So if the light is hitting the ground,
but Chris, there's other rays of light. There's other rays of light. There's other rays of light.
There's not coming straight to my eye. There's not.
I know it's
the
not.
The shadow falls in one direction.
I know it's not coming. The light that would have gone straight to your eye hits the ground. The light that normally would not have gone to your eye gets bent so that it does get to your eye, and then things appear higher.
Okay, so like I said, in the concept of a building, it would appear that I am higher above the building on a flat Earth. If the angle is this way, right? If the photons are coming this way again, it's as though I'm looking at it from up here instead of level right here. If I zoom in on a building, I'm going to see the building from this perspective because the light travels in many different directions.
Yes.
If I'm up above, okay, so if this is a building and I'm standing here looking at the building, if I'm standing below the building, I have to look up, right? As I get further away, this building is getting smaller in angular size. When the building is far enough away from me where I'm looking at or below my line of sight, the light coming from the bottom of the building is going to hit the ground first. That's why the buildings in Chicago never fully really disappear. They disappear in the haze, but you can usually or a lot of times see those buildings at night above what should be the curvature of the Earth.
Chris, have you been to Chicago?
Is standard.
Have you been to Chicago?
Yes, no, yes.
Have you driven on Lakeshore Drive?
Yes.
Okay,
I haven't driven on Lakeshore Drive. I've walked on Lakeshore Drive.
What is between Lakeshore Drive and the lake?
The park. Or between Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things like Millennium Park, the beach, a bunch of boats docked on piers in the water, and Navy Pier. A big old giant thing.
I'm not saying refraction isn't hiding part of the buildings. It's not hiding what should be hidden based on globe math. The math doesn't add up with Chicago. It doesn't. When you see curvature, Michael, what you guys do is when you see curvature of a short distance, it proves it's a globe. But when you look over long distances, like 55 miles across the lake at Chicago, and half of it is usually visible when the entire city should be hidden by curvature.
No, the entire city should not be hidden by curvature.
Only the top 400 feet of the Willis Tower should be visible.
Assuming zero refraction. Make sure you say that. Assuming zero refraction.
Assuming zero refraction. Okay. And it's never hidden. When the atmosphere is right, when I can see Chicago, because there's not atmospheric haze, you can always see it across the lake. There's been countless people who've taken those pictures, and that's what I'm saying. When you look at it the right way,
and then assume zero refraction,
is a flat Earth.
No, Chris.
Yeah, Mike.
There is still. I gotta say one more time.
How tall is the Willis Tower? Like 1,200 feet.
This is what's necessary in order to have things be obstructed bottom up on flat Earth.
No, because I showed you that it's not necessary. Can I please pull up my experiment and share my screen, please?
I want to see them. I want to see the modeling, Chris. You said you could do the math.
I could show the math is
just-
the same that it is on a globe for downward refraction,
No.
except the surface is flat.
No, Chris.
Yes.
It's not the same.
You can
because on the
laugh.
same, because if it's the same, you see that's the same looking picture, but this is the math. Downward refraction. This is downward
refraction over
Right, this
distance
is the
going to make an
globe.
object. Look, pull up the pictures of Lake Pontchartrain and look at your curvature, Michael. You guys think that's Earth curvature. That's the silliest, most ridiculous thing. You claim to measure things and to do real science, and I have watched you a couple of years ago propagating that the curvature over Lake Pontchartrain with the power lines is Earth curvature. See how it exactly matches the curvature of Earth? No, these things are assumptions based on a false model. And the bias in the scientific community is aligning with the false model instead of telling the truth. And that's just the honest to God truth, man. When you're
Chris,
looking
Chris,
at all of the evidence.
I measured the radius of the Earth myself, so.
Well, you say you did. How? How did you measure it when you're not considering that it could be flat and that you could be seeing downward refraction on a flat Earth?
I falsified that the Earth is flat.
How? How did you falsify it?
sun
Based on
sets.
visual observation from here to there?
Sunsets.
Okay. And how?
The
Because
suns-
in the model that's in the Bible, the sun is down here on the widest path.
Dude,
It's
Chris,
under the cosmos.
Chris, the book of
It's
Enoch
under
says
us.
that the sun at nighttime goes through portals.
It does.
Yeah, that's
It does.
at
And
nighttime.
when half of
And
no, it doesn't say that. It says the sun is always in the face of heaven. It says that it does a circuit in the sky, like a Jacob's ladder circuit.
and it goes through
when half
portals
of
at
the
nighttime.
sun,
Underneath.
okay, so when
underneath
half of the sun is sticking out of the western portal, half of it is coming out of the east on the other side. Right? They're seamless. We're not talking about
All right, Chris.
going down into a portal and
All right,
hiding for
people
5
want to
hours
see.
and coming
People
out.
want to see your modeling.
That
Go
is
ahead.
not what it is.
Go
The
ahead.
modeling
I'll
is
let
the
you.
same.
All right,
the
I'll let
modeling
you.
is the same.
All right, go ahead. You can share your screen and show your modeling.
All right, hold on. I got to find my YouTube channel.
Yeah, so demonic leprechaun. What model? So the ancient cosmologies didn't know that nighttime for them was daytime for somebody else. So
Enoch did not say that.
Hold on, Chris.
He did not say
Chris,
that.
I'm explaining to demonic leprechaun. So just hold on. So they like ancient Greek stuff said that the sun went down into the underneath it when it rode on a boat across Styx or Hades or something and then got on the other side and then went around because they didn't have a concept. They didn't have fast communication and they didn't
But they
know.
made a perfect calendar.
No, they didn't. It's
Enoch
not.
did.
It's not. It's a mess.
I showed you
he
that it
missed
was a perfect
day.
calendar.
He missed a day.
He did not miss a day. He did not miss a day. It's 365.2, and every so many cycles, it turns like a clock.
But it's not point
So
two.
the sky
It's not a
is
perfect
turning.
calendar if it's point two.
Okay, so let me ask you this. How long is it going to take for you to figure out that the heliocentric calendar is off by 30 days?
It's not.
700 years.
It's not.
Over that distinction, it would take you 700 years to be off by 30 days in a year. In the calendar in Enoch, every year it falls on the same day. My birthday would fall on the same day every year.
Yeah, I mean,
We are supposed to keep the Sabbath.
I joke sometimes about switching to metric time or metric calendars, and some people have proposed different calendars where January 1st is always the same day of the year.
The calendar in the
And
book
that
of
you have.
Enoch is
Hold on.
accurate.
I wasn't done. And then every couple years you have a leap week to add in there to rectify that.
Enoch figured that out thousands of years ago. Even if it was 2,300 years ago, every 5 years you add 6 days to a 364-day year. So the year is 364 days. Every year on the 5th year, you add 6 days. That's the leap year in Enoch. And it's more accurate, I believe, than the Gregorian calendar and our heliocentric model of 365.25, which is why we have leap
But it's
years.
also not 0.25.
It's 24.
Yeah.
246 something like that.
Are you aware of
Yeah,
leap
close.
seconds?
Yes.
Twice a year they add them in June as well as
Well, and that's
in,
because the sun is
New
offset by
Year's.
the stars for 4 minutes. I mean,
Actually,
that's
it changes. It changes all the time. There's an entire organization dedicated to measuring the rotation of the Earth
right. So
and
how are you telling
varying
me
and
if it
adjusting
changes all the
clocks. So
time?
the clock on your computer was adjusted based on the measurements done by the organization that measures the rotation of the Earth.
Well, if it's so accurate, why
Because
does it need adjustment?
because the rotation of the Earth sometimes varies based on different things like earthquakes.
The sky varies. It's not the rotation of the Earth for one. It's the sky that's
No,
moving, and the
they're
sky is
measuring
what varies.
they're measuring the rotation
But
of the Earth.
again, Michael, the
All right, we're
Perseid
waiting for the
meteor
map.
shower,
You can
same day.
share.
I'm showing you the
Oh
experiment.
wait, hold on. Did you share your screen yet?
I'm trying. It says it's
All right,
disabled.
go ahead. I turned it on.
All right, let me see which screen to share. There we go. All right. So what I have set up here is I have a laser and I have a fish tank of sugar water. And the hypothesis is that the laser is going to bend down and hit the ground before it hits my eye. And I'm going to show you that in this first part of it. Can you hear the audio?
No,
You can't hear the audio?
no, you have to share your audio too.
Okay, hold on.
That's in.
So
in
what
Zoom.
I'm doing is I'm showing you what's going to happen on a flat Earth and on a globe. Okay, and on a globe, I'm not really using a convex surface. I'm using a slanted surface so that I can go down below the surface and see the light bending down over the surface like it does on a globe. So what I'm doing is I'm talking about it running around here. Let's fast forward a little bit. So here, I'm adjusting the book for a globe horizon, getting it closer and showing that the laser, when it bends over the globe, is going to,
Why is
I'm
the
going to
book
see it.
outside of the refraction gradient?
What do you mean outside of the refraction gradient? Because the light is going through that dense layer, which represents 6,200 miles of atmosphere where the sun is. The sun is directly above the observer, 6,200 miles to my west, right? So here we are looking at a globe. Notice how when I go below the
how did
horizon
you
of the
calculate?
book,
Wait, hold on, Chris. How did you
we're
calculate
showing
the
downward
angular
refraction.
size?
This is not hard.
Wait, this is the
This is not
sun.
hard.
Are you claiming this is the sun?
Yes.
And how did you calculate the angular size of the distance between the sun and the surface of the Earth?
I'm showing you that the photons traveling in one direction away from the sun are going to hit the ground. That's what because they're all traveling in one direction. You have one shadow.
But they travel in all directions in reality, though. Even for flat Earth, they don't just come out like a laser. They go in.
Okay, I could do the same thing.
Directions.
I could do this with a flashlight, right? I could do this with the flash. I'm getting ready to show you this laser hits the ground. And then when I move the fish tank, you're going to see the difference. You're going to see the difference between when there is no refraction and when there is refraction. But I should see this laser. Look at the size of this book.
I'm still asking, why is the book outside of the index of refraction gradient? That doesn't make sense, Chris.
Because once the book in the water changed, it's going to go the same way.
Put the book in the water.
Why would I do that when I'm showing that?
Well, it'd be funny because it'd get all wet and be sloppy and dripping everywhere.
Yeah, so notice that below the horizon or above the horizon of the same book, where I should see the laser, I no longer see it, right? Because I push the book back and I'm allowing it to hit the ground, right? Well above the horizon. I'm well above the horizon, right? And I want you to look at the size of the book over here. Look at the size of the book at the other end. And when I move the fish tank, I want you to look at the laser on the wall. I want you to look at the difference with just sugar water, right? Of how much I can change that angle of light on a flat surface. Look at that. Look, watch this. Do you see that? Do you see how much difference that was just with sugar water on a flat surface, downward refraction? Yes, it most definitely would set the sun and it would obscure objects from the bottom up. Wait, and I'm going to show you with an elevation test and diffuse light with an actual object. Okay, I'm going to use a core water bottle. And we're doing an elevation test because on this diffuse object, I can't get to, well, you'll see. The reason why I'm doing an elevation test is because as I raise, I can see more, I can see all of it. And as I go down, it starts to be hidden behind the curvature. So watch. This isn't curvature. So when I get to see how it's being obscured and hidden And now we're even with the bottom of the fish tank. And I have caused, and it's almost disappeared into the atmosphere of the sugar water, right? So
yeah,
we're doing this
it's
on a flat
cloudy.
table.
It's cloudy at the bottom.
We're doing this on a flat. No, that land is disappearing. It's compressing and disappearing, just like thunderstorms do. Thunderstorms over the ocean don't go over curvature. And that's the thing. If you can see hurricane clouds from 300 miles away, Michael, the Earth is not a sphere. It can't be. That math doesn't add up, and it never will add up. And we can make that observation every day.
Hurricane clouds from 300 miles away.
Absolutely. At sunset. Absolutely.
I'm gonna need to see that.
Ask anybody who lives on the ocean that's watched a hurricane come in when the sun goes down.
300 miles.
You can see the clouds. You can see them from further than 300 miles away. You can see storms where you live in Minnesota, Michael. I guarantee when the dry line forms, when you guys get storms.
Right, hey, hold on a second. We've got something way more interesting here. What's going on here? Can you give us a play-by-play of this truck?
Yeah, but anyway,
don't pause it. That was great. That was good stuff. Keep going. Hit play. There we go. All right, what's going on? Does he have like a bunch of wood stumps in his bed there?
Yeah, I'm not.
All right,
is this a high-speed chase?
People in the crowd betting on betting is acceptable. Are they gonna get the pit maneuver to make him spin out? No, he's just sitting there.
What is he sucking on a balloon or something?
Oh,
what has he got in his lap?
I don't know, but they're chasing him.
I was watching a story the other day. Have you ever heard of butt hash? Look at
butt hash. No. All right. They're getting close. Is this pit maneuver coming?
You got to look that up. I think it's a joke, but it was really hilarious.
Judy says he's going to ditch the truck and run. Are there wagers being placed on this at this time? I don't know. Maybe he's got in trouble because he was stealing wood stumps. Oh, they're getting close. They're like, should we do the pit? Should we do the pit maneuver? I mean, this video just got significantly better, Chris. So,
okay, great.
Oh, Mr. E-Man says he saw it yesterday.
The video shows you what would happen on a flat Earth with refraction on both a diffuse object and a luminous object.
With the tree stump pickup.
You're just trying to change the subject.
I'm having fun here. Oh, people are giving away the ending. People are giving away the ending. You want me to fast forward? Demonic leprechaun. Well, how much is left in it?
I don't know. It looked like a pretty long.
It's 3. Man. Oh yeah, you got to jump ahead. Yeah, we got to jump ahead. This guy goes forever. He's still going.
Oh my God! What happened to the tree stump? Oh, they're still there.
Oh, he's scrubbing again. All right, jump ahead again.
That's pretty impressive.
Boy, this got good. What? It looks like he's pinned. All right, jump ahead. If somebody said that this probably isn't the ending of it. Oh no, he's still there. Oh, you got the SWAT back there, man. This guy, he's in trouble. I don't understand why they just sit there with him. Why don't they? Because he's trapped. Like, it looks like he can't get away.
Can you read? I can't read that on the side. I wonder where he is.
You can't read
on the Hummer.
Oh, it says. I think the thing that said LAPD.
Oh well, that's why they're letting him sit there. It's LA.
Oh, they don't know if he's armed or not. That's why they're not approaching. Right? They want him to get out. They're probably yelling.
I'm surprised they didn't just pull over and let him go.
I don't know. All right. There was a balloon involved. I do not know why the driver had a balloon. All right, can you go a little farther? I want to see the final whatever happens here. Man, 3 hours and 52 minutes. And oh my gosh.
Who would watch that?
The whole thing? If you don't know what's coming. Right? If this was live, you're like, oh, what's going to happen? But
I don't have the patience.
Yeah. There's nothing to see. The balloon was him huffing nitrous oxide.
I wonder what was that he was doing.
Oh,
That's why I brought up butt hash. You gotta look that up.
oh, yeah.
It's pretty
Just like,
funny. It's pretty
just like
comical.
blue waffle. Do not look it up. Um. All right. Well, all right. Chris, we're 2.5 hours in.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. I mean, yeah, I understand what it's like to have cognitive dissonance.
Oh, stop it.
I had it. I love you, man. You know I love you,
All right.
Michael. You're a great guy.
You gotta scoot. You gotta scoot a little, or I gotta. All right, there you go.
All right.
There you go, right there.
Yeah, so do whatever you want. You want to shut it down? I want to come
it.
on really soon though, where I prepare. I want to come on one more time.
I want
because
to see,
I always
right.
screw this up.
No kidding. I want to see you model. I want to see the ray tracing of the many paths of light coming off of the bottom of the building, going to the observer, right? Because it's not just one ray, right? It goes in all directions. So, all right.
Well, light does go in all directions, but if it's coming at a higher angle,
don't go into it. Just think about it. Prepare it. We'll come on again. I got some things to read though. All right. So don't get too into these, or it'll take forever. Serena's one says Gish is ridden hard. Put away wet again. Matto 311 says the answer is potato. Whatever that is. Melodic Lyric says, for the Bible tells me so. This is just the kids' song. Take it that melodic is not.
I disagree.
Does not share your position on the Bible. Tim Davidson says those angels aren't there anymore. They were ground into angel paste. The guy debated last week on Wednesday was selling his own paste called angel paste.
Oh, okay. That makes
so the four angels on the four corners were turned into angel paste. Many Karen says, all right, so Many Karen is in Israel, said Mount Hermon, Mount Tabor, Mount Carmel, Mount Inbal. I have more if it's not one of these. The mountain that Jesus saw the entirety of the earth from.
He didn't ever say what mountain it was.
Well, he was walking around in the desert for 40 days.
Yeah, and the devil took him.
Yeah, all right. Tim Davidson said, if the Bible's literal, where did Cain and Abel find their wives?
Well, you have to go into the extra biblical text like the book of Adam and Eve to find that. I mean, if you read the story, God made them with wives. And then the children of Cain were in the valley below, right? Where the oceans are. There was a valley of the earth. Like the oceans didn't exist until the flood.
What book is? I've not heard of this book.
Yeah, the book of Adam and Eve. Look it up. It's really interesting. And it may be.
Is it more wacky than Enoch? Because Enoch's wacky.
It's pretty cool. It really gives. It's not wacky when you apply it literally and you include extra dimensions. I mean, yeah, from a 3-dimensional perspective, it is. But like I said, God exists.
Chris, as soon as you said when you apply extra dimensions, it definitely crosses over into wacky.
It crosses over into God. That's where God is. I mean, that's where God has to be. Our government just told us that UAPs are real and they're using extra dimensional physics. I mean, what we're observing is impossible. And people say, well, the government wouldn't lie about something as big as a flat earth. Well, they've lied about UFOs. They lie about everything. I mean, yeah, they would. And yeah, there are people who would keep that a secret. For sure. 100%.
Oh my gosh.
And the people who are the wacko whistleblowers are crazy, like me, right?
I agree with you there. All right. Chronic Avenger says the book of Enoch isn't the Bible.
He said what?
Chronic Avenger says the book of Enoch is not the Bible. Tim Davidson said Jesus or Yeshua, Jesus or Yahweh is Hebrew for Joshua, and Christ means the anointed one. So I call him by his real name, Oily Josh. Because anointed, when you anoint, is with oil. Many Karen says, and this in I thought 666 was the number of the beast. I've done more investigation. It does seem that this is correct. At least in what I've looked up, many Karen says 616 for Nero Caesar. Nero Caesar, and then he writes it in Hebrew.
Yeah.
Or 666 for the Hebrew version of Neron Caesar, and then he writes Neron Caesar in Hebrew. So being Many Karen is a native Hebrew speaker, he gets the Hebrew. He can type the Hebrew, and I don't know if assigning numbers to letters.
The Hebrew language is numerical. I mean, it is a numbered language, but the New Testament wasn't written. It was Aramaic, I think. That
Greek.
Part of it. But,
Greek.
Well, Greek later, the Septuagint, but
no, the Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Old Testament.
So you think these were originally? You think the Book of Revelation was written in Greek?
Yes.
By John, maybe.
So to my knowledge, the entirety of the New Testament is originally written in Greek. That's my knowledge. I've seen other people suggest some other things, but to my knowledge, those things that people suggest are not supported by evidence. So
neither is the spherical Earth.
Yes, it is. NANA says, I thought it was 666, and of course, NANA's super chat was for $6.66. So many Karen says 66 books in the Bible, not 73. And there are different canons. Catholics have a different set. They have more than 66.
The Apocrypha is not canon in the Catholic Church, though.
Typical Protestants have 66. The Ethiopian Church has others. Some people take
they have 80.
the book of Thomas. Some have all sorts of other things, but the general number for Protestants
and don't you think those
66.
books are interesting, if nothing else? So, Mike, I mean,
I'll say,
have you ever read them?
I've read the Book of Enoch. It's an interesting fantasy backstory for a fantasy world, though I do prefer the Silmarillion.
What?
I prefer the Silmarillion to the Book of Enoch as a fantasy backstory.
Oh, okay.
Yep. If you prefer the Silmarillion to the Book of Enoch, put a 1 in the chat. Charlie Welch says Pillsbury Doughboy had the mark of the yeast. Yadish Takas says creationist math, x equals 64 divided by 16, simplify by 6, x equals 4 divided by 1 equals 4. Let's see. Yep, I've got an awful lot of 1s in chats, people that do prefer the Silmarillion to the Book of Enoch. Now, if I were to ask, you can only vote if you read both of them. I'm going to ask a poll on that. Have you read both? I think I spelled that right. Have you read both Silmarillion and Enoch? So there you go. I am going to vote. Oh, I can't vote. It won't let me. My vote is yes. I've read both of them. I've read the Silmarillion 2 or 3 times. I think 3. I have the book. Chris, have you read the Silmarillion?
Never.
No. It is written by J.R.R. Tolkien as the fantasy background for Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
So, all right.
I did read Lord of the Rings in high school.
Yeah. All right. We got Omega Red says 69 is the number of the freaky. NANA gifted 5 memberships. Thank you for that, NANA. And then said a little bit later, said 666 is bad. Okay.
Okay. I agree.
Fact-based says religion made up by cavemen to explain natural phenomenon. Not a single word in the Bible written by any sky wizard. Corrupt translations aplenty. So there is fact-based opinion of it.
A single protein is 10 to the 164th based on probability. So good luck with that model.
I don't know why that has anything to do with it, but okay.
Well, because it's impossible for life to have come out without God.
Well, okay. But that doesn't mean that the people that wrote the Bible had any scientific background.
Well, they did. Are you falling in the bottomless pit, Michael?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, if Earth is spinning around the sun as the sun is falling through space, are you falling in the bottomless pit? Or are you already in hell?
No.
Right. You're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you're on a firm foundation. Right. The Earth doesn't move. You're
It's
not falling.
figurative.
Well,
Heat
I
shield
don't
says
think so.
666 is a problem with your medulla oblongata.
Maybe
All right.
it's possible.
Many Karen says,
Yeah, I mean, if that's me, you guys. I mean, is that what are you
All
mean to retarded people? Is that what we do? You just
I don't
cut people down?
I don't
and
know.
make things up?
I don't know what he was
Say I
saying.
lost when I mopped the floor.
Chris, I don't know what he was saying about that. Many Karen says if you have a triangle side 6, 6, and 6, and you put Dimmock in it, will he shut up? The answer is no. It is impossible to shut him
You
up.
can't have because you can't
Because
you can't do that.
if you take
Right.
Dimmock, I mean seriously, when Dimmock dies, they put him in the he's gonna still be yapping. They put him in the casket. He's yapping. They shut the lid. He's yapping. You're at the funeral. The door the lid is shut, and it's like behind the casket. People are like, oh my gosh, please can we just get to the part where we put him under the ground? You put him under the ground. You go there 75,000 years later, and you listen closely. You put your ear to the dirt. You'll just hear him saying, "That's Dimmock." Stringer's one thinks that you're worse than Gary.
Wow. Thanks.
I disagree. 100%. I would much rather talk to you than Gary. Any day. Melodic Lyrics says spheres are in fact not defined by the radius, Chris. That's true.
Yeah, the Earth's curvature is defined by the radius, bud. It is. Yes. It's not defined by the sphere. It's defined by the radius.
Right.
Again, Michael, really quickly, 360-degree segments of a sphere all have equal drop around the surface of a circle.
Yeah.
If you're measuring in one direction, you're measuring from here to there, but there's 15,836 miles of drop to get from here to here. And each of those degrees, yes.
You can't do a drop like that. When you get too far out, then there's no.
If you're looking one way, yes,
there's no Earth below it.
That's why we take the whole Earth in 360 degrees, right? You take the whole circle, divide it into 360 degrees.
Why not divide it up into 666 equal segments?
Because 360 degrees is what we use, and that's what makes sense of it.
We can just arbitrarily pick any old number.
How many miles is a degree?
Let's do it in radians.
How many miles is a degree?
It's 69
so
miles.
How do we figure out? So that's 24,901 miles circumference of the Earth, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that circle, 24,901, can be broken up into 360 sections. Okay. I don't need to make up a formula to go one way looking from here to here off of a globe when I can take the entire globe and make it equal for every degree, which it is. It's not dropping off a cliff. Every degree is dropping by the same rate, which is 0.6.
This is the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Why would that not work? So tell me why I wouldn't divide the sphere into 360 sections. Why would I make a parabolic math equation to look one direction?
What parabolic math equation?
I'm only looking one way. It never comes back this way. It never
which
comes
equation
back.
Are you talking about?
The equation to figure out the curvature of Earth. It's looking one way. It's based on the radius. It's not based on the circumference.
Well, what equation? Tell me the equation.
I don't remember it off the top of my head. I don't remember the Earth curvature. 8 inches per mile squared.
That's linear drop from that's linear drop from horizontal tangent.
In one direction.
That's not the formula for curve.
But it's good enough for the way that you're applying it.
That's the formula for linear drop from a horizontal tangent.
Right.
That's not curve. So, curve is not measured in Chris. Curve is not measured in feet or miles or inches. Curve is not measured in linear units.
Right. So if I take a circle and I divide it into 360 sections, instead of making an equation looking one way, every section curves by the exact same amount. Every section is shaped the exact same.
Okay.
You're not going to get a section. It's like hurricane tip. I tried to bring that up to you in the last debate we had. This hurricane, 2,400 miles wide. If you measure from the center, there's only 75 miles of drop. But if you measure from the edge, there's 400. That's because I'm looking off a cliff. That's not the way that we should measure Earth curvature. Earth curvature is the same for every degree. It's the same for every degree. It's the same for every mile.
Let's not divide it into degrees. Let's divide it into half-mile segments.
If I make a complete, let's just think about it this way. If I travel 24,901 miles in a straight line, how many miles do I have to drop around the center to get back to where I started on a sphere? It's 15,836 miles if you calculate the whole circle.
Yeah, but
if you do that,
but why did you arbitrarily pick that? Why not?
Because it doesn't match 8 inches per mile squared.
Of course,
it's much more drastic. No,
I showed you the measurement of 8 inches per mile squared.
It does it in one direction. It does kind of, because you're curving down by 8 inches. You're traveling at this angle, curving down, traveling at this angle. Yeah, I get that.
But Chris, let me tell you this: if instead of arbitrarily choosing 69 miles per segment, if you arbitrarily choose half a mile per segment,
so what is that divided into 24,901 miles?
Yep, there's 2 inches of drop every half mile.
If you look one way,
according to 8 inches per mile squared formula, which isn't the right formula anyway, but I'm just using it anyway.
It's not. It's not the right formula.
Hold on, Chris. When you take 2 inches, right, times what? 2 inches times 24,901, right? But there's twice that because we only did every half mile. So I need to multiply that by 2, right? So we got 49,802 equal segments all the way around of half mile.
Divided by 8.
No. There, I took a half mile.
Okay. Yeah.
How many half mile segments are there all the way around the circumference? The answer, 49,802. Now, over a half mile, what is the drop according to the 8 inches per mile squared formula?
Maybe an inch and a half.
2 inches. Right? So I'm going to take 49,802, multiply by 2. I get 99,604 inches of drop using this weird math that you're doing, right? How many miles is that? I will convert that to miles. Convert length inches to miles. That is 1.57 miles of drop. If instead of choosing the arbitrary 69 miles, I arbitrarily choose a half mile as my even segment, I only get 1.57 miles of drop.
No, you're forgetting about the drop around the circle, which is 15,836 miles, right? So if you include the 15,836 mile drop, yeah, because to drop to the equator,
why is there?
Because I've got to drop 39.59, 39.59, 39.59, 39.59.
You did it 4 times instead of
one.
360 times, or instead of 49,802.
We're talking about the tangent. We're talking about the radius of Earth, 39.59, right?
But we're doing 39.59. This is the most insane math I think I've ever heard of.
But not if I draw a pie. They're all shaped the same way. So let's divide it. Let's think about the measurement.
All right, I just want some pie.
It's 0.6.
Can we have a pie break?
0.6.
All right, somebody who's gonna go out for pie? I want some French silk. Facty, can you go out for pie? Everybody, put in your order for pie, please. I'll have just a slice of French silk. Chris, what kind of pie do you want?
I'm not really a big fan of pie.
All right, Facty, make sure you're writing this down. Well, just pick.
Oh, 3 point. Well, I get what you're saying about the circle.
Chicken.
No,
not 3.14. I'm just peckish for some pie. So do you like chicken pot pie? Demonic Leprechaun needs rhubarb. I hope you're writing this down, Facty. Apple for Eric Burns. Pecan for Stephen Baker. Dude, you gotta. I hope you're getting this. Red raspberries is Casey Cooper. That's a good one. Have you ever been to downtown Minneapolis to Murray's and had the raspberry pie? That's amazing. So there we go. All right. Anyway, Bobby links that exactly. I saw that movie too. All right. Shepherd's pie. Oh, it's so bland. So bland. All right. All right, Chronic Avenger says, spearfishing through water, downward refraction will cause the fish to be higher. Facty, I hope you're writing this down. There's a whole lot of orders. What will it take? Like half an hour? Can you be back? An hour? Mr. E-Man says, show the measurements, Chris. I want to see the measurements of flatness. If you can show measurements of flatness, then you are presuming flatness.
Yeah, I do. I presume flatness, and you guys presume a globe, and it works out either way. If you're missing the atmosphere and all these other things that are impossible on a globe that's flying around the sun, I mean, the flat Earth is the most logical argument there is. Unless you say that it's not, and then 90% of the world agrees with you. But you know what, Mike? I've never ever been persecuted for telling people about Jesus. But I've had people tell me they want me to die quite a few times talking about Jesus being the creator and the true shape of the earth. And why is that? Why do we experience the persecution?
Why do I experience the persecution, Chris? I experience that too, Chris. Why do I experience that? If you are using that as evidence for something, then I am receiving persecution from flat earthers telling me that they want me to die. Chris.
Well, that's sad. That's horrible.
So you don't get to claim some sort of evidence because people say that they want you to die.
It's not evidence. It's
when they say they want me to die, Chris. That's meaningless. It goes nowhere because we've both received it, Chris.
Sure. I don't doubt you have. There's some crazy people out there.
I've got a folder of screenshots and I've gone over it before.
Yeah, I get it.
And a video coming out on Friday is somebody saying something incredibly evil and wishing for the deaths of many people. All right, let's not get stuck in stuff. We want to move on. Move ahead. Magis123 says,
sorry about that.
GL2F never fails, never. True. Fa of the QTube family thinks that this stream makes your IQ refract lower. Delco's
my IQ's 130, so
Delco says, was that the Facebook teaser?
No,
or did you have it officially tested?
When I was a kid, I did. I was gifted as a kid.
But what happened?
I don't know. I guess. I mean, I understand your globe model. I don't agree with it.
I do not agree with that. Anyway, Delco says, as someone who trains these models, I can tell you that that is incorrect. I'd love to present some evals on the paid version and see what he has to say. That'd be cool, Delco. So if you can put something together, and then you could do that, and then bring Chris in, we could talk about that a little. I don't know. All right.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
TBL Astru says, why can't Flairfs grasp the concept of 3D space? Of all the flatties,
space am I not understanding?
Of all the flatties that don't understand 3D space, Chris is not on the end of the spectrum that doesn't understand 3D space, right? I'm not saying that Chris. I'm not saying I think you do, but you're not on the same side as most. I'll say that. But Kuros wonders, Chris, how far does light run before it gets tired? And then just hits the
Depends on the refractive index.
It
depends on the angle. It depends on the refraction. It depends on a lot of things. But on a surface, when you're looking at something parallel...
He was anthropomorphizing light.
I know what he's doing.
You took it too seriously, Chris.
No, man. I'm really frustrated with myself tonight.
All right. Melodic Lyric says, do you think by this point he spent more time gish galloping than it would have taken to actually do the math? Well, you got to bring the math next time, Chris.
The math is what it is. Like I said, give me a scenario for refraction and I'll calculate it for you.
I did. 10 miles.
You did not.
10 miles.
10 miles. What's the refractive index? Is it magic like the globe?
Standard refraction. To do that as your baseline.
For what? For air? For
Okay,
water? For what?
Okay, over air, through air, over index of refraction. Sorry, coefficient of refraction, K equals 0.167. All right,
Yeah,
I can
okay,
text you that, and you can show that. You can do the math for that. Tim Davidson says, Cave Johnson is God? Question mark. I'll burn your house down with the lemons. I don't know what that means. Cave Johnson. I don't know. All right. Chris, who is actually Lael, says, ask him to provide evidence of a hurricane crossing the equator.
What does that have to do with anything? The only time I've ever seen Coriolis. Hold on.
Oh yeah.
The only time I've ever seen Coriolis proven in an experiment is the physics girl experiment, where she drags the plate across the water and she forms two pool vortices that go all the way across the pool. So what she showed was that
Coriolis.
Yeah, it is. They're spinning in both directions. So on each side of that path,
that's not Coriolis.
There were vortices. It replicated it.
That's vortices.
How would you replicate it on a globe?
Replicate
You would
what?
have to have Coriolis to show that Coriolis is happening on a sphere.
Just go measure it.
No, you're assuming that it can't. What would you do? Like make a plastic bubble and then a plastic bubble over the plastic bubble and spin it?
Do you mean how would you model?
Yeah, how would you show that that's even a possibility?
So typically people, and this is a good way to do it, people use a rotating platform. And there's I think it was Smarter Every Day, who was inside a room where the whole room was rotating, and they start by leaning against the wall, and once they get going, then they they come off the wall, but then they throw a ball across each other across the room, and you see the ball curve. They don't know.
Of course, because you're in motion.
You asked for how could you demonstrate?
So you're telling me that Coriolis cannot be caused by the external force of the cosmos that has gravity that is under us when the moon can pull the tides, right? So the gravity of the moon can pull the tides, but the gravity of the entire cosmos below the Earth doesn't have the ability to cause the Coriolis effect.
No,
that's interesting.
You would need to show that happens.
I did with the physics girl.
Yeah, but we are not in water. Force. You need to show that there's some.
The Coriolis is happening in water. I mean, that's primarily the atmosphere is affected by the water.
That's not Coriolis. That's just.
We were talking about hurricanes. Where do hurricanes happen? Where do hurricanes happen?
North and south of the equator, and they spin opposite directions.
Right. And what are hurricanes made out of? What's the center of mass of a hurricane?
Nothing. It's just rotation.
It doesn't have a center of mass. Each water droplet has its own center of mass. I mean,
you can identify the point in
over the ball Earth.
You can identify.
Really think about it.
You asked a question I was answering. You didn't let me answer.
Go ahead.
So we'll move on.
I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Fact base says Paul Wynn's comments flirp running from evidence. Yeah. Chris says you missed my last super chat. Oh my gosh. Let me scroll back. Well, I just read your previous one, Chris, but let me jump back. I'll see. Ask Chris if he wants to join the Temple of Tune. That was your first one, Chris. Lael, Chris. And then, or did you do it? Because I always tend to, for some reason, I always miss Lael's. Even though Lael is now Chris, I still have a tendency to miss his super chats. So Chris asked him to provide evidence of a hurricane crossing the equator, and then FactBase says something. Then Chris says you missed my last super chat. So, but I didn't this time, Chris. Lael, I got it this time. Good for me. Mr. E-Man says, I love how a hyper-intelligent species that is capable of traveling interstellar space comes to the Earth to do donuts in the stratosphere and are never described as having a mullet haircut.
They're demons, man. They're demonic entities. These are angels from the fifth dimension. They're from where the angels are from. That's why they can move the way they move.
All right.
They're not aliens.
That just went
6 trillion years is a long way.
Right.
I mean,
all right. Clover Mom says
that's
UAP.
1 light year.
equals unidentified autonomous phenomenon, or UFO equals unidentified flying object. Neither are necessarily extraterrestrial objects or beings. They're just unidentified.
But they defy physics. And we have biology that's not human, according to the whistleblowers. The government. That's what he said to Congress. I mean, Congress seemed to believe him.
I think Congress was a bit incredulous about it. I did see the guy, and the guy's like, he's just making claims. And they're like, what about this? He's like, I can't answer. What about this? I can't answer. What about this? I can't answer. So it wasn't very helpful, right? It's just a guy making claims so far.
But he's making claims that are, this is deliberate, man. They're not doing this on accident.
Well, he's just making claims, and you are taking his claim. Chris, you are taking his claims on faith.
No, I watched the video evidence, and also if you watch the Apollo 17 takeoff, here's the Apollo 17 evidence that it's fake. If you watch that takeoff, don't just watch the takeoff. Actually, watch that thing as it moves up and does these zigzags in the sky as it's going up, completely violating anything that physics would allow with that spacecraft. The camera's stationary. Watch it. But yeah, they're doing crazy maneuvers in the sky that cannot be explained.
Yeah, they're doing donuts. They must have a
crazy
mullet.
Stuff.
They have to have a mullet. Stringer News 1 says Jabberwocky was good enough for my father. Yeah. And somebody said that Cave Johnson was a character in Portal, or Portal 2. And of course, the guy who wrote Portal is here, Dave Kircher.
Cool.
So, all right. Jiffy Cone says, so no math. Throws phone, breaks skateboard. He'll have it next time, Jiffy. He'll have it. And I
had a demonstration. I mean, the demonstration trumps the math. I can actually show you. I can show you everything
The
else.
Rabbit says, rapper Tune, still waiting for that single. You can't have an honest discussion with a religious nut job. I still have 42 spaces. So I will make you. He trailed off. Maybe there's a. Hold on. The rabbit. Nope, I don't see it. I don't know where. I still have 42 spaces, so I will make you. You'll make me. What? All right. Tease. You tease. Basil Vino says. Bibliflurfs are the absolute worst. No, hold on. I'll come back to that. Science denial and lies. What a disgusting combo. At least the Dimox of the world can blame fetal alcohol syndrome. All right. There are religiflurfs that are awful, terrible people. And they tend to make all sorts of evil accusations. Chris doesn't, at least hasn't said it to me. So I'll say that's different.
Thank you, man.
Hold on. Please help. All right. My kid needs his birth certificate. We dug it out and got it ready. All right. Esteban Ilabaca says, Chris, downward refraction will make an object at or above your elevation appear higher in a flat earth, not lower.
Right. Or above. At or above.
Point a laser slightly upward and it will bend downward, which makes it.
Of course. Yeah. That's why the tower on Lake Pontchartrain, you can see the whole thing because it's above your line of sight, right? Only anything below your line of sight is going to drop and hit the ground. But yes, and it's like Ken, the fishing experiment that he was talking, or the fish looking higher. That's not across the horizon. I mean, there is no refraction. There is in the water. You have the refractive index of, I think, 1.33 or something like that. So it is going to be offset from where it is, right? But that's not the same example, Ken, and you know that. I mean, it's not a bad example. But anyway. Kenji, Chronic Avenger.
Oh, okay. Yanish Taka says a pie is just a pie chart of how much pie is left. Oh man, I'm starting. I hope Facty's back soon. Tim Davidson says, "Skull done nothing for me. Teacher said pie are square. I said no pie around cobbler are square. See, I am poo." Okay.
So my point about the pie That's why we use it, is because it's a complete circle. It makes the, circle make sense. It's divided into 360 perfectly
But
equal sections
but divided
that are
into
perfectly the
into
same.
but divided by radians instead of 360s.
Right, but here's the thing, Michael. If we're looking at the distance across each degree, it's the same. The curvature is exactly the same. It's not from here to there curvature. It's not looking from here to
1.57
there.
1.57 miles all the way around.
No,
I mean, I
no,
just chose a
it's not.
different arbitrary segment
The
than you. The
tangent is,
arbitrary
you
segment you
don't even
chose.
understand what I'm saying. So I'm talking
Nobody,
about the
Chris. Nobody
tangent.
does.
If I
Nobody
draw a
does.
line to the center of the earth, how far is that line?
A tangent to the center of the earth.
No, if I draw a line to the center of the earth, so not a tangent,
from the perimeter.
Yes,
6,371 kilometers.
3,959 miles, right?
Yeah.
So to get from the North Pole to the equator, I need to drop 39.59 to the equator. To get from the equator to the South Pole, I need to drop 39.59 to the South Pole. To get here, I need to drop 39.59, 39.59.
Why? But why are you doing that?
Because the equator, if I was to dig to the center of the earth, I would be in line with the equator.
But why
right?
are you doing this around the outside and doing that drop?
Because that's what it is. It's
Okay.
39.59 to the center. If I go to the equator, I'm traveling how far across the surface? 6,200 miles, right? So I'm not traveling 39.59 across the surface. I'm traveling 6,200 miles. And over that distance, I need to drop to the equator, which is 39.59 below me. The equator here is 39.59 below me.
But
the equator here is 39.59 below me.
What's the point of this exercise?
Because there are 4 sections of the earth. Every one of them has a tangent of 39.59.
Okay. So
39.59 times 4 is 15,836 miles.
And
that is the drop around the center of the earth, the center of the circle, divided into 360 equal sections.
So then what?
Right. So they're all the same. It's not looking from here to there. It's not saying, okay, there's 8 inches of curvature in a mile. There's 6 feet in 3 miles. There's 66 feet in 10 miles. That's not the way. We're not looking off a cliff. We're traveling across the surface. It's the same. It should be uniform.
But why?
We're measuring that.
Why, Chris? Why? I don't get it. Why?
Because it makes it more. It makes it more. It for one gives you more of the shape of what a globe would actually look like, what it would actually be, and it's basic math. Around the entire surface, I need to drop 15,836 around the center, because I'm doing a circle.
But why are you doing it? But why are you doing it that way?
Because it's 24,901 miles in a straight line.
Yeah, but but why? Why are you doing this? What is the point of this exercise?
Because it doesn't match one direction. It doesn't match measuring based on the radius.
But nobody is measuring. Nobody's measuring that distance. Nobody's ever tried to measure that distance.
Why? We're not talking about looking from here to there. I'm talking about how much does every degree drop to the center, right? Around the circle. If we divide it evenly, they're all shaped exactly the same. The math is deceptive.
I picked a bad day to quit Toonshine.
Okay. 15,836 miles to make it all the way back to where you started traveling. 24,901 miles.
All right. From now on in this stream, all units must be given in sheep units. New rule. I just put it in place. Virillion says the Bible says enjoy your persecution. Why is Chris complaining? You're supposed to enjoy it, Chris.
I do enjoy it. I'm a little frustrated with myself, to be honest, because I wasn't as on as I thought I was. Don't go on a
tangent here. All right. The Serenus one says the Bahamas are in the Atlantic, not the Caribbean. So there you go. I don't know why. I don't know why that came up, but thank you. Delco says he knows less about AI than about the globe.
I made my own that could talk as good as GPT or basic conversation several years ago. So
what language did you write it in?
Actually, originally I started in AMLU, I think, and then I moved over to Google Dialog Flow.
Is that a programming language?
It's no, Dialogflow is the how I structured the conversation. It's JSON mostly.
Okay, so
JSON
you
files
did
and
not
Python.
write an AI.
Yeah, I did. Everything it says is what I said. So yeah, I did. Everything that it does is something that I told it to
Chris, just I write software.
do. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's Python.
So when you write an AI, you have to write in a program.
I didn't do the neural network.
Okay. So you didn't make your own AI.
Well, I made an AI that works better than any other interface that I talked to.
You didn't make an AI. Somebody else made the AI and you just fed the neural network.
Well, right? Yeah, with the Dialogflow, but in the AMLU, I did make the AI originally. You know, it's an older programming language, but yeah, I understand how to program, Michael. I'm not a dumbass. And I use Dialogflow to structure it because it's made by Google. It's the Alphabet company product.
All right, AMLU?
Machine learning. I don't remember the name. It was 7 years ago when I started doing it. So it was Pandora bots.
Pandora bots.
Mm-hmm. It's a special programming language that the guy who started that developed.
All right.
And it's not hard to program. You're acting like programming is hard, Michael. You're acting like something like this is something you have to be some kind of a genius to do.
Not genius.
I mean, an 8-year-old can program, right?
I've never hired an 8-year-old, and I would never hire.
Well, they can, and you probably maybe should. I mean, no, they're pretty intelligent nowadays.
No, Chris. Pandora bot.
Don't talk down to me like that either, man. Seriously.
ML. I'm not talking down to you. I'm saying I would not hire an 8-year-old.
You're telling me I didn't create an AI, dude. I worked for 6 years on that. And like I said, it's pretty kick-ass to me. And you're just cutting down what I do to support your argument that you don't have. You don't have an argument, Michael. And that's why that's why you get on this edge where you have to, fire these insults of I don't do this or I don't do that.
Chris, dude, AIML.
Look at me and look at you.
Chris,
that's all I gotta say.
AIML is an XML dialect. It is not Turing complete.
No, it's not. But it is. If you do it randomly, it can be. That's what my whole philosophy was.
Do you know what Turing complete means?
Yeah, it means that it can pass the Turing test on all parameters.
Turing complete is completely different metric.
No, I don't know. I don't want to go down this hole.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Honestly, I mean, but yeah, dude, that's kind of an insult because I have worked really hard on it, and I think that it's probably better than anything you can do. Just like my argument is better than your argument, which is why you have to throw insults and tell me I'm dumb and don't know what I'm talking about.
Chris, I didn't say that.
Well, yeah, you kind of did. You kind of did. You can watch it back and see, but
Lord, it's probing time. Says, damn it, I missed the first 2 hours of this. Going by what I have seen, I may have saved my sanity.
Maybe.
Jeez. Steve6464 says, Angels from the Fifth Dimension sounds like a 50s sci-fi. It does sound like a 50s sci-fi. David Wellman says, so the first man cooled to absolute zero. He's okay? Tim Pryor says, ask him what specific YouTube video he watched that made him believe he's smarter than billions and every scientist in the world.
I didn't watch a YouTube video. I read the Bible, and God's ways are higher than your ways. God is smarter than you. And God has also chosen foolish things. So me getting on here and saying this, like, I'm an idiot. Like, I know that. Like, but God uses people like me because I don't care what people think. I care. I am a little bit, my feelings were a little bit hurt about what you said, but I don't really care what the world thinks of me. I'm not here to please anybody but God. And like I said, if the creation model is true, God is the only option, right? The Big Bang didn't happen. Evolution didn't happen in the biblical model. That's not the story of creation. That's a story of people who twist what the Bible says and what the Book of Enoch says, which should be included.
You have to be honest. That's just your personal interpretation of the Bible.
Then if it's an
And lots of
interpretation, the
other
Bible's
people
not
have
true.
different interpretations of the Bible. Yours
Then
is
it's not
not,
true.
but yours is not the only true interpretation of the Bible.
No, it's not. But mine is based
But
on what the Bible says.
but no, you're claiming that your interpretation is superior to everybody else's.
No, I didn't. I told
Okay.
you
Well,
not
then
an hour and a half ago
is-
that I don't know what the shape of the earth is.
Is your interpretation of the Bible more accurate than Danny Faulkner's from Answers in Genesis?
Yeah, because he goes along with the scientific establishment that believes
Okay,
Earth is falling in a bottomless pit.
How do you prove that your interpretation is
I'm not
better than
interpreting
his
it.
interpretation? Of
The
course you
Bible
are.
says over and over again the Earth doesn't move. You can say that's
your
figurative.
interpretation of it.
No, that's what it
other
says.
people interpret that to be figurative.
How can you make that figurative?
Easy.
Like, what would be a figurative view of that?
It's that the ground doesn't move in relation to your home, for example, and people that live in areas where the ground slides, like if they built their house on a hill, and it eroded away, and then
Same passage. It tells you the sun is running a race through the sky.
Okay, super. That matches the Earth running a race around the galactic center.
No, the sun, not the Earth. The Earth is stationary.
The sun. Yeah.
Right. The sun is
so
doing
the sun. You could take that, but I would take all of that figuratively.
Because it doesn't match your model. It doesn't match the darkness.
It is somebody's interpretation. Your interpretation isn't necessarily more correct than anybody else's interpretation. We just go to the physical world and measure it, and we found. But
we've talked about one subject, and I'm right. I showed you with experimentation, and I can duplicate, I can replicate that over and over again, and show you. And we've talked about one subject tonight: refraction. There are so many other subjects that go along with this that annihilate the globe model. So many of them.
Oh, no. All right. Jiffy Cone says, I did miss a few. Or no, just this one. All right. Jiffy Cone says a slice of pie is $2.50 in Jamaica and $3 in the Bahamas. These are the pie rates of the Caribbean. Oh my gosh. And then he said, "You missed my pie joke. I'm sorry for yelling." Yep, that was a good one. That was a good one. Just a Messenger says, "Tell Chris the Bible doesn't support flat Earth in the slightest, and we can all tell he has no idea what he's talking about." GL2F. Delco says, "I've spent almost 7 years learning about tensor operations, attention mechanisms, batch normalizations. Ask him what sampling is in relation to any AI." So what is sampling in relation to any AI?
Any AI?
Yeah. What is sampling?
Based on the data. I trained my own. I don't work on AI to make money. I made my own bot for fun. It was chrisai.com. I took it down a couple of weeks ago because OpenAI has solved language, which was what I was trying to solve. So I'm not creating neural nets. I'm not doing anything like that. It was a language chatbot that was based on the dialogue flow deep learning. And I don't know.
It sounds to me like yours could pass the Turing test with the specific parameters.
No, it couldn't pass the Turing test, but it was good. It was a good AI, and I worked very hard on it.
It can't even pass the Turing test?
It's 10 megabytes.
Okay. Delco says AIML.
I was building it off of the thesis of Alan Turing that all language could be basically packaged inside of a package of about 8 megabytes and communicate and talk about anything. That was the original idea behind computer programs being able to do what they could do.
All right. Delco says AIML and Dialo, it's decision trees. I make machines that dream.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
All right. Tim Pryor says, "Well, I believe in the god Thor. Now what? How do you know your god is the right one? Let me guess. Because of a book?"
Because my god exists beyond the cosmos, like Thor.
And again, you didn't answer the question. How do you know your
God is the right
one?
Thor might be another name for God.
But
I
how
don't
do you
know.
know? But how do you know your God is the right one?
Because my God created the universe without confusion.
But how do you know your
Because
God is the right one?
what do you mean? How do I know he's the right
How
one?
do you
How do
know?
you know our God is the
How do
right
you
one?
know? How do you not know that some other God, some other understanding of it created the universe?
Well, Thor is a really good example, just because of, I mean, Thor is one of the ones that I wouldn't be able to argue against because he exists beyond the cosmos. So a concept like Thor, I mean, I wouldn't argue with you because Thor lives in a place where he's beyond the realm of Earth. So maybe, I don't know. God had to create all of this. What my point is that we didn't derive from aliens. We didn't derive from evolution. We derived because we were fearfully and wonderfully made. That's what the Bible tells us. And it
Okay,
tells us we were built
but
on a firm
but
foundation.
hold on,
We're
Chris.
not falling in a
But
bottomless
Chris,
pit
I'm still asking because you didn't answer this very straightforward question. How do you know your God is the right one?
because I have the testimony of Jesus Christ living inside of me.
Okay,
Faith
but he
is the
said,
substance of things hoped for,
okay,
the evidence of that which remains unseen. It's
but
the
but
testimony.
but how do you know your God is the right one?
I don't.
There you go. It's faith.
I
That's all you
believe
have.
I
All you have is
believe
faith. You
he's
need
the
to be
right one.
honest, Chris. You just have faith that your God is the right
I
one.
was
So,
honest. I have
all right.
faith. Faith is the substance.
Just say faith. You don't need to quote something. Just say faith. That's all it is. Right?
Well, dude, I mean, you claim to be a Christian, but you don't want to quote the Bible. You claim to be a Christian, but you want to go out there and say, well,
I
this
didn't
is the
say
Big
I
Bang.
didn't want to quote. I quoted the Amos 9:6 earlier.
Yeah, to say that the Bible's not true or the Bible's metaphorical, it doesn't mean what it says.
No, it
I mean,
totally means what it says. It says the earth is a globe. So Chris Hoffman says Chris Curtis is claiming all his arguments are better than everyone's, but he gets offended when he's called out for lying about his work.
I didn't lie. I never said I worked. I never said I made money off of AI, man. I said I built one.
Nobody.
What do you mean I'm lying about my work?
Nobody claimed you were claiming about making money off of it. You said you created an AI, but you didn't.
did. And that's what I feel. I did create an AI. I talk to it every day. It's an amazing AI. I love it.
You used somebody else's AI and you did a markup language to
Okay.
set the parameters for it.
Well, nobody else that I've seen that uses Dialogflow has a bot like mine. So
you made the best Dialogflow bot.
I think so.
But you didn't write it. You didn't create it. Somebody else
I did
created
write
it,
it,
and you just set the preferences on it.
No, everything that it says was programmed by me.
But you did
every single thing.
But Chris, you didn't write the code. You didn't create.
I structured it. So I don't care about this. Like you've gone off the beaten path all night long. This is very frustrating because every time we get into a conversation where you're losing, you change the subject, or you want to watch a high-speed chase, or you want to do this, or you want to do that.
It was a good
high-speed
chase for a little bit.
And again, I mean, like, what is the purpose of this? Like, seriously, it just seems like it's gone nowhere.
All right. Chris Lael says, Chris, if God showed you that the earth was a sphere, would you believe God or try to that you see the curvature when you stand on the surface of the earth?
If God came and showed me and told me the earth was a sphere, of course I would believe God.
All right, we'll get that. Tim Pryor says, I'll give you $1,000 if you can show me where the Bible, show me in the Bible where it literally says the earth is flat. I bet you can't.
Well, I don't understand how you can make a sphere off of four corners. Like, that's geometrically impossible. Four-cornered earth is flat.
All right, so you can't.
You can't make a sphere out of four corners. It's also a circle in the same passage. Isaiah said he would toss you like a ball out of your country. Isaiah specifically said the earth is like a circle.
Okay, but
there's a tree at the end of the earth.
He's asking for something very specific, and just say
the bottomless pit opens the earth.
Just say if you can't. Just say you can't if you can't.
How can a bottomless pit open on the earth if the earth is not flat? How can the earth be sitting on foundations if it is not flat?
Figurative.
It's not figurative. It's what it says.
So your personal interpretation says.
Because men love darkness instead
It's
of the light of
your
the word of
personal
God.
interpretation, Chris. That's all you
It
have.
doesn't
You
need
need
to
to
be
be
interpreted.
be honest about
It
this.
doesn't need to be interpreted. I don't need to be. I don't need to be anything
It's
because I'm being nothing but
absolutely
honest.
it's absolutely you applying your pre-selected conclusion to the interpretation. That's what you're doing, Chris. Be honest about that at least. When I did Amos 9:6, I applied my pre-selected conclusion. I was illustrating the absurdity. That's why I did that.
Illustrating the absurdity of Amos saying that in the original text.
Of cherry picking the Bible to say something specific.
Nobody's cherry. The entire Bible tells you the earth is flat.
Which chapter and verse says the earth is flat?
Jesus saw all the mountains, all the kingdoms of the world from a tall mountain that the devil took him onto.
Okay, so that doesn't literally say the earth is flat. Okay.
There was a tree that could be seen from the ends of the earth.
Safe.
The earth has ends.
Chris, that tree was in a dream.
That could be seen from the ends of the earth. The tree
was in a dream,
The
Chris.
circle of the earth has bounds. God has put it into the water.
Right,
and like I said,
so Tim Pryor,
the book of Enoch is in the Bible.
All right, Delcos.
It's flat. It's all flat.
All right, Delco says, to be clear, there is a difference. One is a 120 billion parameter model trained on the data center GPUs, and one is a spreadsheet. I don't know if he gets that.
Okay.
Stringer News 1 says, Siri, say I'm the best. I hope somebody...
I never said that. I'm not saying that my model is the best or that I'm the best.
Stringer News 1 is just saying funny things here.
Or anything like that. That's all this is. It's like, it's just really wasting my time. I gotta go, man.
All right. Well,
it's been fun. I mean, you guys want to finish?
I got two more. Jiffy Cone says, I'd believe Joseph Smith over Chris any day. And then Tim Pryor says, I'll give him another 1,000 if he stops depending on technology from the globe. There you go. All right. All right. That was fun, Chris.
I guess, man. No questions, just a bunch of joking around and no seriousness, no argument, no valid argument. I mean, it's just kind of frustrating. I got frustrated.
I did show you empirical measurements.
So, and I showed you empirical experiments. And you can apply the same measurement to the flat earth, like I said, and use the same numbers.
You said that. All right. So work on the math so you can show us next time. All right. I know you didn't have time to prep it. Work on that. Message me when you're like, I got the math ready. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll let you go. Where is it? All right. Chris, thanks a lot. I'll chat you.
Thank you, Michael, for having me, man. I'm not really pissed off. I just kind of get frustrated. Like I said, I'm frustrated with myself more than anything else. But thank you guys for having me, and I'll see you next time. And I will have a better argument prepared.
All right. I look forward to it. Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me. Yep. It's gosh, like how do you not see that he's applying his interpretation? That's what really bothers me. And a few other flat earthers have claimed that it's not interpretation, but of course it is. Right? Whether you believe in the Bible or not, it just looking at and reading that and saying it can only be taken this way is not something that anybody could actually really say. Right. Isaiah 40:22 says in English, in some English versions, says the earth is this. He sits above the circle of the earth. And they take that figuratively. And its inhabitants are like locusts. Oh, well, that's not literal. And he spreads out the heavens like a tent. Well, that's not literal. A tent is, to the audience, skin, animal skins and sticks. Right? So and then there's a fourth portion I forgot. It's similar to this tent. Like I'll take the you take the first one to be literal and the other 3 are figurative. How about all 4 are figurative? Right? Brian Peck says, I missed getting my question in by seconds. He wasn't. He was. Yeah. Hilo 1408 says, even Flurf say you can't see all of the earth from the top of a mountain. Limits of sight, remember? Yes, right. So inconsistency. It's about the diagonal. If I've introduced this concept before, if you take on one side, you take if you'd make a spreadsheet. I actually have a spreadsheet. I started on this. Maybe I should put it out and people can look. You say here are the problems with that flat Earth is trying to answer. And then here we have the answers to those problems, and you have this diagonal, right? So why are things obstructed bottom up? Answer something derpy, right? And you have where they intersect, you have their answer. But then, and so you have what you did build up is this, problem answer. You build this diagonal, and that's all the answers. But you find that, see all the earth from the top of a mountain, right? So why can't we see all of the ice wall in all directions when we're in a balloon, a high altitude balloon? Oh, well, you can't see that far. It's limits of sight. Right? There's your question, your answer. But then you're like, oh, well, Jesus was at a higher mountain and he saw all of the earth. Oh, well, that's this one, but it contradicts the other one. So you have this off axis, this off diagonal conflict in that. So all of the different answers that the Flurfs provide have some sort of conflict. So another one I'll give you, when you ask, where's the sun? It's going in circles around. And where's the firmament? Oh, it's over that, and the stars are embedded in it. Say, okay, well, why does the sun only illuminate this weird shape in December, right? The shape that it, according to the Flat Earth Dirt Pizza map, it's got this weird like horseshoe shape. Oh, well, here, let me put an acrylic dome over it with a 1.5 index of refraction, unlike air, which has a 1.0 basically. And then I'll have on the outside of it a 1.0 index of refraction, and then I'll have a light on the outside. Well, now the sun is on the outside. I thought it was on the inside before. There's another conflict. Tau Software says the Bible contradicts itself too. Yeah. So how do you deal with that? Figurative? I don't know. It's an issue, definitely. Brian Peck says, does he think the city of Tyre was sunk beneath the waves by Nebuchadnezzar? That's also in the Bible. You know what? My guess. Here's my guess. He might say that's the city of Atlantis. People, do you think that's what he might have said? Could be. Hujar says, besides himself, who does Chris listen to? Sounds like he talk over Jesus. Yep, I think so. Melodic Lyrics has come back with math and predictions, Chris. Yes. Doubt that he will. Tim Pryor says, most flat earthers think it's a circle. How is there 4 corners? Well, yeah. And he gave his answer. If you've seen the map where it's a circle, and then outside the circle are extra area outside the circle where the corners are. And of course, there's angels there that have been since made into angel paste, somehow protecting things. So is it a circle or is it, something with 4 corners? It can't be both literally. It cannot literally be both. You have to assign some weird interpretation to it, driven by your pre-selected conclusion, in order to keep them literal. But you have to invent something that's not in the Bible. The Bible does not say that it's a circle, and outside of the perimeter of the circle, it's a square. It doesn't say that. It says circle and 4 corners. They conflict. They contrast. It's off diagonal. So, Spring News 1 says, when one starts with the presumption, I'm always right, then there's no room left for God or any other higher power in that. And that's a very well stated thing, Stringer News 1. Very well stated, right? He has... Right. Justin Messenger says, one verse says circle, another says corners. Taken literally, he thinks the earth is a square and a circle. He is truly a flurf. Great job, Toon. And Radlum Soup, fun name. First super chat even says, biblical literalists forget that even Jesus told figurative parable stories to make people understand according to their limited experience. Very true. He told a parable about the talents. The talents is a unit of currency. Somebody got some money, buried it, and then when the guy came back, he gave back what he had gotten, given. No money extra, right? Another guy invested it and got money back, right? Did that actually happen? No, that wasn't claimed to actually happen. It's just a story. It's figurative. And he brought up the tree. The tree was in a dream. It's not even claimed to be literal in the Bible. Man, devil. I don't know. S Factor, no, he did not. Glober Mom, is angel dust dried angel paste? Oh my gosh. Daryl Frost says, if you sample the circle with 4 equally spaced points, it's a square. Again, whatever, I don't know what to quite mean by that. It doesn't matter. You're adding stuff, right? You've taken the literal, and then you added an interpretation on top of it, right? It's all about it. And in order to make all this happen, it has to be about the interpretation. Man Devil says, I wasn't trying to be mean. Well, they get a little raw. You come in, you kind of poke at them. All right, let me see. An inscribed square. All right, fine. We got ending the poll. Looks like 15% of you have read both the Silmarillion and Enoch. That's pretty cool. 360 votes even. That means that 54 of you read both the Silmarillion and Enoch. Pretty cool. So, all right. If you did not see it, I have another live stream coming up. It was gonna start an hour ago. Do you guys want to do it? Are you in for it? Are you in for it? Molossus said prior to 1822, Bible said the earth was flat. All right. Seriously, Molossus, why just lie? Why just lie? Don't you feel bad lying sometimes? Molossus, right? Hold on. I'm gonna put this up because it's just dumb that you feel it's acceptable to lie. All right. Here you go. So Molossus, right here. Right, this is evidence for nothing, and it's perfectly cherry picking. I gotta say, Isaiah 40:22. Right, these are after 18. What did you say? 18:22. Right, but here we go with Amos 9:6, Geneva Bible 15:60. He buildeth his spheres in the heavens, and he laid the foundation, and he hath laid the foundations of his globe of elements in the earth. He calleth the waters of the sea and powereth them out upon the earth. The Lord is his name. So there is actually no, I've looked, I've searched, I've hunted Molossus for a any Bible that says Earth is flat, and exactly none say that. So, all right. Binge Thinker says for a 12-pack of Tab, keep giving me a reason to take off Wednesday. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom. And I will start the stream after that. Let me get this here. Ooh, there's that. Close that. I have a video coming out Friday, and I have 2 debates next week. One on Monday with Al Truther. That'll be a little earlier one. He's in the UK. And then Iggy returns on Tuesday. So be ready for Iggy. Daryl Frost says, you are a programmer. You should know that. I should know what? If you have 2 samples, it is flat. Information theory, Nyquist, limit principles, sample size, and information. Sorry, did I write email software? I implement RFCs. I analyze, spam and fish. Today I'm digging into DMARC specifications. I don't do. Anyway, all right, people. Thank you very much for coming along. I'll see you in a little bit for the invasion stream.